Chapter 151, Getting Stronger When Encountering a Strong Opponent. Not good. Upon seeing this, Xiaya inwardly shouted and quickly retreated backwards whilst gazing at the massive dark red energy cocoon. The energy cocoon appeared to be giving birth to one of the most marvelous change in nature. A caterpillar transforming into a butterfly? Kaka, a sharp and clear sounded. Suddenly, the cocoon quivered before it fiercely burst open, and a pink figure suddenly appeared amidst the chaotic energy. It was a robust figure that was only 2 meters tall. Although still tall and sturdy, it appeared much more frail than Bofiai's original 5-meter-tall figure. However, all of its essence had been concentrated and from its body, Xiaya felt enormous pressure. Bofiai's bright red skin had turned into a pinkish color. The tiny scales all over his whole body were arranged in a delicate manner. His extremely thin scales were tightly closed together, forming a natural sense of beauty. Compared with the dramatic shrinking of his body, Bofiai's head has changed even more greatly. The 3 brown horns had disappeared, leaving only 2 long 1-inch black bumps above the top of his ear flap. The 2 blue and 2 red eyes have also changed. Both bright red agate eyes have merged into one which was inlaid between the eyebrows, like a beautiful pink crystal. In particular, what Xiaya took notice of was the energy fluctuations on Bofiai's body. The earth-shattering, frightening imposing aura was giving him chills. His height has shrunk so much. His strength wouldn't have doubled like Frisia's, right? Xiaya was a little uneasy as cold sweat dripped down his back. In the Dragon Ball world, whether it was Frisia or Majin Buu, their final form always seems to get smaller with each transformation. Yet they grew more powerful with each transformation. Hurriedly using the spirit eye to observe, a rosy light appeared in Xiaya's eyes. Fortunately, Bofiai's battle power had only reached 1.12 million. It did not change so dramatically as much as he had expected it to. Fortunately, it's not as exaggerated as Frisia's transformation. Xiaya patted his chest, heaving a sigh. If Bofiai's battle power after body transformation had multiplied by several times like Frisia's had, then even if he used his space-time ability he wouldn't be able to fight back and could only look for an opportunity to leave. Fortunately for him, Bofiai's strength after body transformation was not as exaggerated as he had imagined. 1.12 million battle power, only increasing by 180,000. The extent of his transformation was about the same as Zarbon. If it was at this level, Xiaya could still fight. Originally, Xiaya's battle power was only over 700,000, close to 800,000. After igniting his ki, he could fight on equal terms with Bofiai who hadn't body transformed. His aggregate attack power was around 900,000. However, as he had gotten injured several times in the fight, and coupled with the magical healing effects of senzu beans, his strength has been growing. Now, his real strength was almost 900,000. After he ignites his ki, he can just fight with someone having little more than 1 million battle power. If his space-time abilities were factored in, he can barely fight Bofiai. At this moment, Xiaya had actually forgotten that traits of Bofiai's body transformation were different from Frisia's body transformation. In fact, Frisia's body transformation was essentially just a process of releasing energy, and releasing only a little bit of original strength is not considered as a body transformation. As for Bofiai or Zarbon, whose body transformation allows them to exceed their normal capabilities, is the true body transformation, but the price they have to pay for such a transformation is quite huge. Good, good, good. Let me see how much you have gotten stronger. Xiaya grinned, his blood beginning to race. Shua. Xiaya adopted an attacking stance and immediately swooped down, turning into a beam of light. His whole body was golden and sparkling as it pounced towards Bofiai. Ha ha ha, you are so eager to court death. Then allow me to send you on your way. Enjoy the feeling of his whole body brimming with power, Bofiai laughed cruelly. This body transformation ability was extremely taxing on physical strength and lifespan. Essentially, it was excessively overdrafting his life force, and if it was not a matter of life or death, Bofiai would never use it. Shoo! A beam of light suddenly appeared in the sky. Bang! With a fierce collision, Bofiai adjusted his posture and responded in kind. However, the moment they were about to collide, Xiaya's body abruptly tensed, and quickly dodged. Hualala! A powerful scarlet energy wave quickly shot out from behind his back. Xiaya waved his arm in the form of a hand blade. His palm blade flickered with an icy cold light. Crack! The hand blade clashed with the scarlet energy wave, causing it to bend by 90 degrees. His arm shook, and a tingling sensation spread along the palm of his hand. At this time, Bofiai's figure had already appeared beside him, and pressed close to his body. Bang! In an instant, Xiaya and Bofiai fought with ferocity as fierce winds which contained astonishing amount of energy wantonly crisscrossed. However, Bofiai's strength after body transformation was far above Xiaya's. Soon, Xiaya's body was riddled with wounds. Sir Bofiai and the human strength has once again improved. The distant crowd retreated backwards in a flurry. Quick, take me out of here. I want to leave the Bofiai trading center immediately. After several heart-pounding abrupt changes, some merchants realized that the situation was spinning out of control, and quickly yelled at their hired bodyguards to escort them out of here, not wanting to stay here any longer. Let's leave, we can't stay here any longer. Once again, a handful of people ran away. In the dim battlefield, two clusters of energy, one gold and one pink, clashed against one another over and over again. Rumble! The land trembled, and few invisible beams of light flashed as ravines of more than 100 m wide and unknown depth split open on the surface of the ground, allowing burning hot magma to spew out. Hu! Xiaya stretched out his leg and kicked towards Bofiai. Bang! Bofiai merely put his arm across his chest and blocked the brutal power. Not good. Upon seeing this, Xiaya quickly retreated backwards. Seeing the quickly retreating figure, how could Bofiai be willing to let him go? He furiously whistled upwards, his body rapidly flickering like a bolt of lightning streaking across the dark sky. He lifted his leg, clenched his fists, and successively launched attacks without stopping. Thump! There was a loud muffled sound, and Xiaya let out a loud scream from pain. His shoulder suffered a heavy blow and his body shot out like an artillery shell, drawing a deep ravine across the ground. When the dust cleared, his body could be seen buried deeply in the ground. Boom! The next moment, Bofiai again jumped up, clenched his fists and furiously hammered them down on Xiaya's head. If this attack lands, it is sufficient to immediately kill. With a loud rumble, the land cracked open and Xiaya's figure suddenly disappeared from the underground. Upon seeing this, Bofiai was shocked. Just as he lost focus for a moment, a rapidly moving figure instantly arrived before him who attacked towards him with an energy wave. Suddenly, an earth-shattering pressure bore down on him like Mount Tai pressing down. On the ground, Bofiai stabilized himself and hurriedly responded with an attack, the enormous recoil causing the entire rock strata beneath his feet to bounce up. Not only had he missed a good opportunity, but he also allowed his opponent to fight back. Bofiai's muscles twitched, his face becoming blue and white. You damn bastard! Bofiai viciously cursed. He had never met such a powerful opponent. He had to deal with him as soon as possible. A cold light flashed through the crystal pink eye on Bofiai's forehead. His body transformation ability has a time limit, and the burden it placed on his body was especially huge. Every minute, and every second means overdrafting more and more of his life force. If he did not finish the human off as soon as possible, he would likely be dragged to death while still alive. Die! Netherworld shock wave. A blood-red shock wave shot out like a cold beam of light having captivating dazzling colors. Halfway, it divided into two beams of light which separately rushed towards Xiaya, one after another. This netherworld shock wave was even fiercer than the previous one. Even after its might was divided into two, there was not a slightest sign of it weakening. Moreover, when it neared Xiaya, the two shock waves divided once more and became six, surrounding on all sides, cutting off Xiaya's all paths of retreat. The friction between the air and the powerful energy produced loud zi sounds, stirring air to form a fierce whirlwind. The whirlwind was like a violent and furious flood dragon which roared continuously. It brushed across the surface of the ground and instantly split open a frightening crack. The heaven-destroying and earth-shattering force shot out in all directions. At this moment, even the heavens and earth have lost their colors, and the hazy grey dust instantly dispersed. Boom! On the plain, there was a fierce explosion high in the sky. Part of the force passed downwards through the rock stratum, seemingly wanting to completely penetrate through the Earth's crust. The entire continent shook violently. Even on the faraway opposite side of the planet, the apocalyptic shaking could be felt. Smoke dispersed and the yellow sand filled the sky. A light breeze blew by, producing light buzzing sounds. Cough, cough, barely blocked it. With blood spilling from his mouth, Xiaya placed his arms in front of his forehead as he felt his internal organs beginning to break down. As he slowly moved, the cracks all over his body were stricken with a tearing pain. Xiaya hurriedly swallowed another senzu bean. Chapter 152, Chaos. Senzu Bean was indeed worthy to be called a healing panacea. In the blink of an eye, the injuries on Xiaya's body disappeared once more. Seeing that the human before him once more became vigorous and lively, Bofiai's expression turned livid and the fury in his heart reached the max. Bastard! Bofiai could only helplessly curse in rage. Fighting this sort of enemy who could fully recover almost immediately, and who gets stronger the more they fight really causes his scalp to feel numb. He didn't know what to do. Bofiai's battle power after his transformation was actually far above Xiaya. Even after exhausting all his cards, Xiaya's combat power had been worse than Bofiai's. However, as time passes, the side effects of his body transformation will gradually begin to appear. His physical strength, speed, and energy were all gradually weakening, while Xiaya remained in his peak state all along with the help of Senzu Beans, and even his battle power was steadily increasing. It was as if he was treating Bofiai as a sharpening stone for honing his skills. If this continued, Bofiai might not be defeated, but would get forcibly dragged down by Xiaya. What a shameless and despicable human! Clenching his hands, Bofiai's eyes were cruel like a ferocious beast. The eye on his forehead glimmered with a cold light as he fixedly stared at Xiaya. Sensing Bofiai's anger, Xiaya smirked and voluntarily retreated backwards, thousands of meters away from Bofiai. This small amount of distance for them who can cross hundreds of thousands of meters in a second was not much, and could be crossed in a flash. A breeze brushed past the land, raising a curtain of dust. You damn brat, you see be cocky for now, but I will soon make it so that you wished that you were dead. Bofiai's eyes were malevolent like a ravenous wolf. His icy and bloody eyes were without any emotion. Like a beast staring at his prey, he closely watched Xiaya. Ha! Bofiai suddenly let out a loud shout before his body vanished. His silhouette could not be found anywhere on land or in the sky. His guard up, Xiaya's eyes kept following Bofiai's movements. Suddenly, a bright light flashed through his eyes as he raised his arms and punched in a certain direction. Boom! Punches which were filled with violence created an whirlwind which astonishingly erupted out into invisible ki ripples. Seeing that his strategy did not yield any result, Bofiai whizzed towards the sky, immediately turning into a sharp ray of light, and quickly got out of counterattacking Xiaya's range. He then began to launch attacks at a more tricky angle. This time Bofiai was truly furious. Like an arrow, he rapidly shuttled back and forth. Each of his attacks contained exhilarating and suffocating power. Because he knew that the longer this dragged on, the more unfavorable it would be for him. Go to hell! Dragon Roar! A dazzling bright red energy beam shot out of Bofiai's mouth. Like a fierce demon crawling out from the depths of the abyss, it headed towards Xiaya. Xiaya's expression was stern as a maniacal look flashed in his eyes. He also used Energy Wave to attack. Energy Shock Wave. Rumble. Momentum of the roar which was surging forward was extremely powerful. A huge mushroom cloud immediately rose thousands of meters high into the sky. The thick and turbid energy immediately penetrated the atmosphere, sending large amounts of energy into the depths of the universe's starry sky. Within the atmosphere, debris filled the sky, and the blast whirled around gravels, sending them out in all directions. Ah! A wave of energy swept over Boku and the other's head, scaring them to hurriedly lie on ground to dodge it. This is too dangerous. Their fight is getting increasingly out of control. I can't stay here for another second. Quickly, let's leave. This planet is no longer safe. We have to leave as soon as possible. Several daring aliens that had stayed to watch the battle were blown far away. They wiped the sweat from their foreheads, and hurriedly called out to leave, no longer caring about the supposed awe-inspiring fight. At this point, both Bofiai and Xiaya paid no heed to anything, and were hell-bent on killing one another. Big and fierce moves were sent out repeatedly, with no concern for the life and death of the people on the planet. Soon all the spectators had left, and besides the two fighting on the battlefield, only the anxious Boku and Bolton were still left. On the other side of the planet, the main venue, the huge Colosseum, and even the entire capital city was in utter chaos. Everyone was frightened out of their minds by the faraway fighting auras. Every few seconds, the land would fiercely tremble as if the planet was going to shatter at any moment. Quick, prepare the spaceship. I must leave this planet immediately. What is going on? Is it the end of the world? Some ignorant universe merchants who were frightened out of their wits, grabbed some aliens along the way and asked. But at this time everyone didn't even have enough time to escape, so how could they still have the time to care about anyone else? Some aliens or lone travelers who were near spaceships immediately jumped in and escaped as fast as they could. No one knew how long the planet could last for. Hey, that's my spaceship, you can't leave. At this time, all sorts of bad things were being performed. Bofei Trading Center was a place that shelters evil people and allows vile practices. So when their own life and safety is involved, every alien showed their worst side. The action of robbing spaceships, creating uproar to fighting as well as fight between factions can be seen everywhere. Soon, the auction venue was completely destroyed. Some aliens whose strength was not bad also took action to gain an opportunity to flee for their lives. Alas, so much chaos. Bofei Trading Center is doomed this time. On his planet, the emaciated King Kai had both his hands behind his back as he shook his head and sighed. The vast majority of the aliens in the Bofei Trading Center were incredibly evil. So, he naturally wasn't feeling regretful about their deaths, but he pitied the slaves who were captured. But who is that human? So many years have passed but I have yet to see such a powerful human. Looking at how the more he fights, the stronger he gets. Could he be a Saiyan instead? King Kai began to speculate Xiaya's identity but then immediately shook his head. Saiyans may be strong but no so outrageously. How could Saiyans have battle power over 1 million? But with too little information, he could not guess Xiaya's identity. This Bofei's strength has begun to deteriorate. His attacking power is getting weaker and weaker. Xiaya coughed out a mouthful of blood, dragging his scarred body as he gasped for air while his eyes were filled with exhaustion. The battle armor on his body had long since been torn apart. He could tell that Bofei's body could no longer bear the heavy burden. Both his strength and speed were rapidly declining. If the fight continues, then it would certainly end in his victory. He broke away, stopping the fight. When Xiaya's voice transmitted to his ears, Bofei's body shook and his eyes widened. He saw the human floating in front of him shook his head at him, his expression was as if victory was already within his grasp. Bofei knew his weakness, so his countenance turned malevolent as he clenched his teeth and roared like a wild animal. What does a human like you understand? I, Bofei, have been in charge of the trading center for hundreds of years, and has never lost. He roared angrily, the veins on his head squirming. He sent a ferocious glare at Xiaya as he wildly attacked in all directions as if he had lost his rationality. Rumbling explosions continued to resound, and the land violently shook up and down. The ensuing storm rolled up dust and sand before precipitating them in all directions. The sky and earth was blurry. The scene of sky shaking and earth moving was enormous as if it was the end of the world. Chapter 153, Sudden Outburst. Bofei went completely ballistic. Like a trapped beast that knew it is going to die, he launched attack after attack towards his surroundings. Huge amounts of energy waves passed through the sand and the dust in the air. In the midst of the huge storm, huge craters appeared on the ground due to explosions. He's lost his rationality, so the rest of this fight should be easy. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Xiaya's eyes shone like a torch. He deeply exhaled a mouthful of turbid qi, then his figure nimbly flashed across the sky, avoiding all the attacks. His body swooshes and suddenly arrived before Bofei. Right now, Bofei's eyes were bloodshot, his entire being had sunk into a half-insane state. Xiaya directed his palm toward Bofei which shone with a dull blue light rays. A calm yet powerful surging energy suddenly formed. Not good. Bofei's heart shook, he sobered up and hurriedly dodged. But it was too late. Bang! A huge mushroom cloud rose up high into the sky, the pale blue light illuminating the horizon. The powerful energy continued to spread out in all directions with a world-shaking boom. The clouds in the sky instantly vaporized, disappearing. If someone was in outer space, they could clearly see a huge flare rising on the planet. Father! Boku and Bolton turned pale with fright, as they raised their arms and took half a step forward to resist the devastating storm. When the energy wave weakened to a level where they could withstand it, they both flew to the center of the explosion, trembling in fear. There, they saw a huge crater of about several hundred kilometers in diameter and of unknown bottomless depth. As if a meteor had struck, the rocks all around had been melted by the powerful energy into molten lava which keeps flowing out. Black smoke and the smell of sulfur and iron assaulted their nostrils. With eyes wide open in fear, the brothers stared at the frighteningly huge and deep crater which was like a deep chasm. Fear flashed through their eyes, and they felt especially uneasy in their trembling heart. They want to avenge their father, but as they looked at Xiaya in distance who was deeply gasping for breath, they didn't dare budge. Xiaya's strength has completely frightened them. Father, could it be that father has already? Boku's lips trembled in disbelief as he spoke. That immense heaven-destroying and earth-exterminating energy from just now had him realize the fact that even someone strong like their father absolutely wouldn't be able to survive that explosion. Finally killed him. That Bofiai was indeed really formidable. Xiaya deeply gasped for breath. The attack just now had depleted pretty much all of his energy. Even moving now was a struggle. First I need to use a senzu bean to restore my physical strength. Saying this, he took out a senzu bean from his dimensional space and was preparing to eat it. This would be the third time he is going to eat a senzu bean. He ate 2 during the fight, and now a third after the fight. To eat 3 senzu beans in one battle, only Xiaya who have plenty of senzu beans dare to do it. In the original work, which Dragon Ball Fighter didn't regarded senzu beans as treasure. They had even wanted to break it into 2 for eating. If they knew that Xiaya was squandering senzu beans by treating them like fried beans, they would probably wish to strangle him to death. But at this time, something unexpected happened. A beautiful poppy-like beam of light abruptly shot out like lightning, and before Xiaya had time to react, the dark red and beautiful yet extremely cold-blooded energy beam entered in from his chest and came out from behind. Ah! Xiaya gave a heart-rending cry of pain, and immediately fell to the ground, the senzu bean dropping out of his hand. Surprisingly, a battered and bloodied figure unsteadily floated up from the bottomless crater, and collapsed on the ground, gasping heavily for breath. Father! Father! Boku and Bolton shouted out in surprise. Their voices were filled with surprise and disbelief. They were like people who had been drifting out at sea for countless days, starving and soon to die, but they saw a land in the last moments of their life. The suddenly appearing feeling of surprise almost caused them to faint. But, Bofiai cut a sorry figure at this time. His scales were in disorder, horrible wounds were across his entire body, and the agate eyes on his head were dim and discolored. It was hard to find any sort of intact skin on his body. Even Bofiai himself did not believe that he could survive just before he was attacked by Xiaya's energy wave, but it turned out that his life was quite tenacious. Jaja, human, you didn't think I would survive, did you? With support from Boku and Bolton, Bofiai staggered towards Xiaya as a dark red mist squirmed around his body, releasing an extremely heavy sinister aura. Hue! Another beam of light flashed. He extended his fingers out and a sharp laser-like electric ray shot out, hitting the soil around Xiaya, and immediately drilling a dark and bottomless small hole. Tell me, how should I torture you? Bofiai said as if success was already within his grasp. Although he sounded exhausted, he still stood tenaciously. He would personally take his time and torture the human who caused him to lose face. Father, let me do it. I will surely make it so that he would wish to die. Boku said hatefully. Right, torment him well. Letting him die quickly would be letting him off too lightly. Bolton clenched his hands and said with an ominous glint. On the distant Kai's planet, King Kai anxiously paced around like an ant on a hot pan. Oh no, oh no. I didn't expect Bofiai to have actually survived such a powerful attack. It's over now. Missing this golden opportunity, it would be very difficult to wish to have Bofiai killed. Bofiai's strength after his body transformation after all was one the best in the starfields under King Kai's administration. Don't be in a hurry, I want to kill this human personally. Bofiai's voice was icy and cold, exuding intense hatred. Yes, yes, father, you do it. Sure. The brothers nodded and relented the right to kill the human to their father. I really messed up this time. I didn't expect that Bofiai could still survive under such an attack. Xiaya's eyes were half closed in exhaustion, as the soul-penetrating pain and blood loss caused him to feel unusually tired, making it difficult for him to focus. This time, he had really underestimated the enemy. He thought it was enough to kill Bofiai, but in the end, he was counter-attacked by Bofiai. If the enemy's death is not confirmed, one must not lower their guard. This incident had given him a profound lesson. However, do they really think they can kill me just like this? Xiaya gasped as his dark eyes stared at Bofiai and his 2 sons. He suddenly revealed a sneer and loudly shouted, "Instant transmission!" Before the trio's surprised and doubtful eyes, he suddenly turned into a beam of light and vanished from their sight. What happened? How did he disappeared? When he saw the prey which was already in his grasp had suddenly vanished, Bofiai roared angrily. But this only served to affect his wounds, causing him to bare his teeth and burst into a fit of violent coughing. Hundreds of kilometers away, Xiaya's figure suddenly appeared on a mountain top. After landing, he immediately took out a senzu bean with difficulty and ate it. Kaka, the senzu bean broke apart and a rich vitality spread in his mouth and all his injuries were quickly repaired. The horrifying hole in his chest disappeared and was replaced by a new, white and tender skin. One only learns from one's mistake. But it was really too dangerous this time. Xiaya stood up and sighed with a grave and stern countenance. He sneered and spoke, "It's your bad luck that you weren't able to kill me the first time." Then, he once again returned to where Bofiai and his sons were. Chapter 154, Planet is going to be destroyed. Seeing Xiaya reappear, Bofiai finally came to understand what it meant to fight an undying opponent. His deep blue eyes contracted as he noticed that his opponent had fully healed, and his body was in good condition. Bofiai's face madly changed as he shouted loudly in disbelief. "Bastard! How can he again recover?" His voice trembled, and his heart could not help but give birth to a trace of fear. He knew that at his current injured state, he was not the other's opponent. He already lost the will to kill Xiaya, and simply wished to escape from here as soon as possible to retain his life. "Father!" The two brothers were terrified and instinctively shouted. But Bofiai was also helpless. "Today, all of you must die here." Xiaya's voice was icy cold, void of any emotion. It was like the king of hell passing down judgment, causing their hearts to go cold. "Bastard!" Bofiai's expression distorted as he shouted in anger. Disregarding the piercing pain in his body, he shot out a bright red transparent beam of energy from his palm. The energy beam was slender and transparent like an invisible laser. If not for the slight distortion caused by the friction between air and the beam, it would not have been discovered all. Noticing these subtle changes, Xiaya quickly responded with a sneer. Bang! He pressed his fingers together to form a palm blade before forcefully swinging it out in a beautiful arc. Carrying a vast and dreary imposing aura, it directly struck the energy beam shooting towards him. With rumbling sounds, Bofiai's energy beam was directly bent as it collided, accompanied by densely packed stream of arrows erupting out. The whistling energy wave brushed by the ground, leaving deep and straight lines on the huge ground. Throughout the whole process of repeatedly getting injured and recovering during the fight, Xiaya's battle power continued to rise. Like an unsharpened blade, it gradually glimmered with a chilly light of a magic weapon after going through sharpening via Bofiai, this whetstone. Now, the seriously injured Bofiai was far from Xiaya's match. "Go to hell!" Bofiai roared with ferocious eyes. His hands twisted and suddenly gathered a tyrannical scarlet energy ball which emitted bursts of evil aura. He burned through nearly all his life force to gather it, and once he threw it, the entire planet would likely not survive. At this point, Bofiai had already stopped caring about it. His heart was full of destruction, wanting to destroy the planet together with Xiaya. The air quivered. The whole planet trembled and a frighteningly cold energy permeated everywhere. Netherworld destruction cannon. Bofiai's deep blue bloodshot eyes fiercely swept over, and an ice-cold harsh imposing aura instantly sealed the surrounding space like a cage. The world became grey as if it has lost its colors, and the thousands of meters of distance froze while space-time seemed to have lost its meaning. The moment he threw out his attack, the burning air stilled, and a thick smell of death permeated the atmosphere. Kaka! There was a sound of glass shattering, and the pink agate eye at the center of Bofiai's forehead could not endure the continuously stirring fierce energy any longer and shattered into pieces. In the sky, Xiaya looked down at this scene and simply shook his body, reducing the dense killing intent in his dark eyes. He then clenched his teeth and began to gather all the ki in his body into a giant sphere of energy. Space-time breaking punch. Icy blue rays of lightning intertwined with the awe-inspiring amount of energy, and shot forward. The splendid and dazzling light soared through the sky like a frost dragon which swept out mighty imposing aura and earth-shaking electric rays. Boom! The ancient vigorous ice blue divine dragon directly collided with the frightening netherworld destruction cannon, and instantly erupted out with a heaven and earth resounding loud noise. Rumble! Rumble! For a brief period of time, the sky seemed to have returned to the hazy chaos before the creation of heaven and earth, while the sun became dark. The planet itself began to shake violently, and the vast ice blue energy which was surrounded by tingling deep blue electric arcs soon overwhelmed the netherworld destruction cannon's aura. Thump! Under the fist aura, space-time shattered, and it swallowed the entire netherworld destruction cannon. No! With a heart-rending cry, Bofiai could only display a distorted unwilling look on his face as he was swallowed up by the devastating and frenzied energy. Under the massive thunder and lightning frightening explosion, his body was squeezed, torn, and quickly disintegrated into powder. Father! Father! Two other blood-curdling screams could be heard, as Boku and Bolton were also swallowed up by the berserk energy, and also turned into powder with any resistance. Oh crap! I used too much force, the planet is going to be destroyed too. After swallowing the trio, the space-time shattering energy did not stop and continue to rush towards the planet's core. With a kika sound, the core of the planet was pierced through, and the berserk energy shot out from the other side of the planet. Bofei Trading Center's main star was soon going to be doomed. Voila! As the planet's core shattered, dazzling rays of light began to appear all across the planet as major tectonic plates became unstable, causing hurricanes, tsunamis, and massive storms to rush in. Amidst rolling thunder and lightning, the tectonic plates were torn apart by the tremendous power and were quickly smashed into several pieces. The planet began to enter its countdown to destruction. The aliens still on the main star who could not escape in time were in panic. They didn't even know that their ruler had already died before them. They could only watch helplessly as the burning lava drew closer and closer before swallowing them up. Ah! Ah! What's going on? It's so hot! Save me! Please, someone save me! Crying and shrieking like mad, everyone frantically tried to escape. Small spacecrafts tried to escape before the planet shatters. For a moment, numerous bright beams of light intertwined in the starry sky, swiftly shooting out into the vast starry sky. I should also leave as soon as possible. Xiaya gazed at that burning deep crater, and a numb feeling swept through his heart. The destructive power of a planet's explosion was not to be taken lightly, so he prepared to leave using instant transmission without any delay. When suddenly, he sensed a group of weak auras gathered together. There was only one possibility for the weak auras to appear on the main star of the Bofei Trading Center. Xiaya immediately teleported over and saw the caged female slaves who have faces filled with utter despair. These were the slaves that were auctioned off, but did not get the chance to be delivered. Since the planet was about to be destroyed, the buyers did not have the luxury to worry about them, and were busy trying to escape by themselves. Forget it, since I have already seen you, I'll save you time on the way. Quickly coming to a decision, Xiaya walked in front of them and spoke with the help of his translation device. Everyone hold each other's hand, I will take you away. The panic-stricken female slaves failed to understand the reason for it and used their hands to cover their fiery bodies which were sparsely clothed. Just when Xiaya felt a headache coming, they finally reacted and hurriedly muttered for a while before joining hands with one another. Good, that's right. Xiaya smiled before launching instant transmission. They teleported out of the main star and came to one of the other two planets of the Bofei Trading Center. However, he still felt that it was not much safe, so he teleported them to an even further away place. Rumble! A loud muffled noise resounded throughout the starry sky, and the huge planet turned into universe dust amidst the huge thunderous explosion. The destructive force from the massive explosion even shook the two other planets, while the super Dragon Ball, which was comparatively much larger in size, has weak gravitational field and thus shot away deep into the universe with a uniform speed, propelled by the planet's explosion. Bofei Trading Planet has been destroyed. Seeing the main planet of the Bofei Trading Center disappear from the universe, King Kai heaved a long sigh, feeling somewhat regretful. This feeling of witnessing the destruction of a life planet before his eyes was not very good, even if most of the people on it were evil. Chapter 155, 6-Star Dragon Ball. Bofei Trading Center's main star was destroyed. It turned into universe dust with a burst of violent self-explosion. After a long time, the shockwaves from the explosion gradually subsided. Right now, the starry sky of the boundless universe became chaotic due to the scattered dust. Large and small meteorites littered the main star's former orbit, forming a circular asteroid belt. Due to losing the primary celestial body which was maintaining the material balance, Bofei Trading Center's gravity needs to be re-established. This has affected the other two trading planets' orbiting situation, thus everywhere was the scene of chaos of meteorites flying about in all directions. It will take a very long time for the planet's orbiting situation to again become stable. At this time, those aliens who had luckily escaped alive looked back at the broken trading center and couldn't help but feel shocked. They were immeasurably joyous at being able to survive the crisis. Heavens, that was close. Almost lost my life there. A chubby alien wiped the sweat on his forehead, his whole body was as if it would collapse from exhaustion. On the side, his two hired bodyguards were both experts whose battle power has reached 30,000 and could be considered as outstanding in the bodyguard industry. But, at this time, they both couldn't resist their heart from trembling as they together with their employer dumbly looked at the already disappeared Bofiai Trading Center. That black-haired human is really powerful. Even Sir Bofiai, who had been overseeing Bofiai Trading Center for several hundred years, was not his match. Isn't that so? Such big planet was so easily blown up. Fortunately, we had escaped quickly. Aliens who had luckily escaped with their life were talking with each other through the public channel. Suddenly, a mournful howling sound could be heard. Hearing that mournful howling sound caused everyone to have goosebumps. They inwardly admired the howling person's straightforwardness. But this is public channel. Isn't that person afraid of losing face? From the voice, it should be Kadon Starfield's big merchant Mr. Bisoya, right? Why is he crying so miserably? Someone asked, puzzled. Mr. Bisoya is well known for his outspoken personality. I heard that he had come to Bofiai Trading Center this time for the sole purpose of buying more than 300 beautiful female slaves. He had intended to transport them back to Kadon Starfield for grooming before putting up for sale, selling to the aristocrats who need them. Was it that group of female slaves which were traded today in the morning at the auction venue? Someone answered, Xiaya, those female slaves were all very delicate and beautiful. If it weren't for Mr. Bisoya's bid to be too high, I would have liked to buy a few and raise them after returning. Maybe they could have been resold for a good price. Exactly, Mr. Bisoya had even paid to the trading center. At this time, trading center had collapsed, he may have suffered a huge loss. AI paid the money but didn't receive the beautiful female slaves. If it were me, I'd cry too. Who knows when would the trading center be reconstructed? The discussions kept going on centered on this topic in the public channel. Immediately it came to their mind that along with the death of Bofiai and his sons, Bofiai Trading Center only exists in name. Perhaps one day, another big shot may come and take over the agent's position of the trading center. But, rebuilding trading center would not be an easy thing. Of course, all these are for Universe Commerce Alliance to worry about. They just need to keep doing their business. We only hope that the later agent can be a little kinder and exploit them less. After a while, those aliens lost interest. So, they bid each other goodbye and in twos and threes left with their attendants and bodyguards, returning to their respective ruling planets. Just then, the void distorted like ocean spray emerging on waves, and a black-haired youth stepped out of the warped space. He saw the infinite and disorderly, dim expanse of stars as well as that distant burning planet and the two solid planets revolving around it, while the dark orange Super Dragon Ball was missing. It has again disappeared. Xiaya took out the Dragon Ball radar and looked at it. The light dot above representing Super Dragon Ball was moving at slow speed. So, it was just blown away by the energy produced due to planet's explosion. I thought Vados had hidden it again. As long as it was not hidden away by Vados. Xiaya thought with a smile. Initially, when Bofiai Trading Planet was being destroyed, Xiaya had teleported away with that group of female slaves and found a place on a small planet to settle them down before hurriedly returning back without stopping to rest. He didn't expect that Super Dragon Ball to have unexpectedly disappeared as if it had grown legs. It's really not easy to look for the Super Dragon Ball. Xiaya couldn't help but sigh. He had naturally found the 4-star Dragon Ball in the 7th universe without much effort, but in the 6th universe, he had to run into Vados who disrupted his plans. 6-star Dragon Ball was placed by Vados on the Bofiai Trading Center so that he and Bofiai would ferociously fight for it. As for the 7-star Dragon Ball, he still doesn't know its whereabouts. Soon after, he shook his head and tossed away these worries. He should first look for the 6-star Super Dragon Ball. His gaze fell on the position shown on the Dragon Ball radar, and the shrunken star chart of the universe's starry sky appeared in his mind. Immediately, he launched instant transmission to rush over. At this moment, in a starry sky not far from the Bofiai Trading Center, beautiful starlight sprinkles down making it look like beautiful patterns engraved on a black scroll if viewed from far away. The antiquity revealing boundless immortal charm. A beam of light was traversing through the starry sky dragging a long bright tail. A super-huge dark orange planet was moving forward along a straight path with uniform speed, neither fast nor slow, leisurely. That dark orange crystal planet was so massive that when it moved past other planets, its diameter of nearly 40,000 kilometers made them appear as if a short person had come across a giant person, appearing extremely tiny. Shua, the silhouette of a person suddenly appeared in front of the Super Dragon Ball. It then stretched out its arm forward, putting it in front of the Super Dragon Ball's trajectory. Voila, the distance between both sides got nearer and nearer. Super Dragon Ball's smooth surface gradually became a vast flat land. Super Dragon Ball was dozens of times the size of Earth. Obstructing in front of it, it looked as if a mantis was trying to stop a chariot. But next, something miraculous happened. Ka, with a low muffled sound, invisible ripples radiated outwards, and the Super Dragon Ball really stopped. Finally got this Super Dragon Ball. Next, I have to move it. Xiaya nodded his head while touching the Super Dragon Ball's surface. He closed his eyes and began to launch instant transmission. Due to Super Dragon Ball's size being enormous, he has to completely wrap space-time ability around it when launching instant transmission, and this requires the entire Super Dragon Ball to be still. Furthermore, the whole teleportation process needs around 10 minutes time. As Xiaya kept instilling his ki, net-like crystal lines begin to cover the entire surface of the Dragon Ball. Gradually, the sparkling and translucent lines became more and more concentrated, and the preparatory work was done. Super Dragon Ball slightly begins to tremble. Instant transmission. Following his loud shout, Xiaya disappeared along with the Super Dragon Ball. Next second, he appeared in another very distant starfield where another Super Dragon Ball was. As the two Super Dragon Balls were gathered together, they immediately burst out into bright golden flashes along with wang-wang low buzzing sounds like two continuously flickering rainbow signals. Now then, there is only one last Super Dragon Ball left, but I don't know where has Vados hidden it. As he thought of how he hadn't gotten any news of the last Super Dragon Ball yet, Xiaya's eyebrows were knitted. Only when all the 7 Dragon Balls are gathered together would they display their role, lacking any, the other 6 would just be ornaments. That Vados isn't deliberately not letting me obtain the 7th Dragon Ball, right? No, according to her words from before, she would just raise the difficulty level of looking for the Dragon Ball, so it is unlikely for her to do that. Xiaya inwardly pondered. Angels like Vados and Whis, they always keep a neutral attitude no matter what is happening in the universe, even if a universe is going to be destroyed. If not ordered by God of Destruction or a higher level god, they would only look on without lifting a finger. So, she has no reason to prevent him from getting the Super Dragon Ball. It seems Vados is afraid that God of Destruction Kampa would find out she let him take away Super Dragon Ball and blame her afterward. So, she symbolically increased the difficulty level for him. But Xiaya bitterly laughed as Vados' symbolic difficulty level has created too big of a nuisance for him. Forget it, let's look for some other clues. I have already gathered 6 Super Dragon Balls and certainly cannot lack the final one. Thinking about it, Xiaya again used instant transmission to leave and return to the small planet where he had settled down those female slaves he had saved from Bofei Trading Center. He also can't just abandon them there. On the other side, Mysterious Destruction God's planet. The enormous divine tree sword stretched across the entire Destruction God's planet. Beside a lake, blue waves undulate, and green and tender grass carefreely and lightly undulates like ripples on the surface of the water. Vados was sitting on the ground as her beautiful and exquisite silvery grey hair fluttered in the light breeze, swaying with the wind. Her green divine robe stuck to her curvaceous, graceful curves, showing another kind of beauty. All along, a smile hung on Vados' calm face as her bright eyes watched the scene on the crystal ball above the scepter. AI, this kid from the 7th universe seems to be a Saiyan, and he knows so many skills, but it is a pity that they are just flashy with no substance, or else it wouldn't have taken him such a long time to deal with a trivial Bofei. He still needs to temper himself. Vados lightly smiled. With just a glimpse, she had entirely seen through Xiaya's strength. Although Xiaya did not use his space-time ability too much. With how much experienced Vados was, she could understand Xiaya's situation entirely. Chapter 156, Another Earth. Similarly also paying attention to Xiaya was Milky Way Galaxies, King Kai. Only when he saw Xiaya moving the 6-star Dragon Ball, he knew that there was such a mysterious crystal planet in the world. So the human's objective is that mysterious dark orange planet. If I can find a similar planet, perhaps I can ask that human to lend me a hand. Wait, green-skinned King Kai's words abruptly stopped, then he searched around in his territory. He seems to have seen a similar planet. After searching for a while, he stopped on a different lawn as the antennas on his head suddenly trembled. Oh, found it. This is similar to the crystal planet which had suddenly appeared 2 months ago in the Bofei Trading Center. But, it seems that it would be difficult to get it. King Kai stared at the lawn before him. His mind projected to a certain starfield within his jurisdiction. That starfield was somewhat unique, and an ordinary person wouldn't have the ability to enter it. Forget it, forget it, perhaps using this information to make a deal with that human wouldn't be bad. On a small planet extremely far away from Bofei trading planet, resources here were scarce, and it was only suitable for people to live for a short duration. In the whistling cold winds, hundreds of sparsely clothed female slaves trembled and huddled together to get warmth. After going through a series of terrible things such as getting captured, robbed, sold, auctioned, and so on, even if they have already been rescued by Xiaya, their state of mind was still in panic and fear. Princess La Fulai, it's so cold. Some frail girls couldn't stand the severe cold, their voice somewhat trembling. Preserve with it for a while, that brave man who saved us will soon be back. That princess called La Fulai opened her mouth and made everyone huddle together to warm up. She hadn't realized that her own body was trembling. The small planet was barren, and even wood for lighting fire could not be found. Princess, our homeworld has already been captured by the enemy, and every one of our people who has not been killed was turned into slaves. What should we do in future? A girl with a fiery figure was shedding tears as she asked the girl to her side. La Fulai was startled for a moment before she clenched the girl's little hand and said, "Don't worry, Xier. That brave man who saved us will surely not abandon us." Saying that, she thought of her people who were still suffering, and mist began to rise in her beautiful eyes slowly. But, soon Princess La Fulai again steeled herself and wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes to cheer everyone up. These female slaves have come from a beautiful planet called Divine Tree Star and are all born from the mother goddess Divine Tree. These girls' ears were pointed like elves. Because the girls in the race all have a hot and attractive figure, after their home world was seized, they were captured and sold as merchandise. Among them, La Fulai and other girls in the group were brought to the Bofei trading center for auctioning. Fortunately, Xiaya rescued them at the time of planet destruction. "Princess, who was that brave man? He didn't even use spacecraft to take us out of planet Bofei." After the girls had slightly calmed down, they began to discuss. "It must be the mother goddess who sent him to save us. That brave man is a human, but he looks just like us." Some girls let go of their mood as they continuously chattered. "All right everyone, be quiet. It's freezing here. Your body wouldn't be able to withstand such exertion." Seeing that everyone was getting more and more hyper, the more they talked. La Fulai couldn't help but say something. La Fulai has the highest status among the people present on the scene as she was born from the fruit of the highest place on the mother goddess. As soon as she opened her mouth, all the girls became quiet. They all huddled together and eagerly waited for Xiaya to appear. After a long time, a bright beam of light flickered out from nowhere, and Xiaya's figure appeared in front of these girls. "Brave sir! Sir, you are finally back!" Crisp and pleasing voices sounded. Because he has translation device to translate, Xiaya understood the language of these girls and immediately nodded towards them. At this time he saw the thin clothes on the girls' bodies as well as the slight trembling of their bodies. Xiaya patted his head, knowing his mistake. The cold environment here may not count as anything for a Saiyan, but it was somewhat brutal for these soft and weak-bodied girls. These girls are skinny. He sighed. Anyway, he could not find the whereabouts of the last Super Dragon Ball for a while. So, he intends to be a good person till the end. Before finding a place to settle down and consolidate his strength, he has to also find a place for these girls to stay. However, Xiaya doesn't know about too many places in the Universe 6 except for a few planets. So, he had a frown on his face for a while as he stood there. Sir, Princess La Fulai spoke in a low voice. Seeing Xiaya frown, La Fulai and other girls immediately became nervous, thinking that their behavior had made Xiaya unhappy. Noting La Fulai and others acting like a startled bird, Xiaya was dumbfounded for a second before he laughed. "Don't be afraid. I'm not dissatisfied with you. I'm just thinking about which planet to go to." After listening to Xiaya's words, La Fulai and others breathed a sigh of relief as if they had laid down a huge stone. After going through all kinds of sufferings, their nerves became particularly delicate and were easily affected by even the rustling of leaves in the outside world. "Right, Universe 6 should also have Earth, how about I first stay there for a while?" A light flashed within his mind, and Xiaya remembered that Universe 6 also have Earth. But, he doesn't know if it has been destroyed or not. "How about I go there first to take a look? Come, everybody hold your hands, I will take you out of here to a place called Earth." Xiaya spoke as gently as possible. Listening to this, a bright smile immediately appeared on La Fulai and others' beautiful faces. Like blooming flowers in the spring, very delicate and charming. Seeing that, Xiaya froze, and hurriedly turned around his face. Aya, these sparsely clothed delicate and attractive girls are too tempting. Familiarly holding their hands, the hundreds of girls quickly gathered into a circle. Xiaya nodded and immediately launched instant transmission, turning it into a beam of light, traversing a long distance. The small icy planet suddenly became silent. North area, Earth. Universe 6's Earth was also located in the southern part of the North area. But, because the universe was not same, the exact location wasn't the same with certain deviation. On a sky blue life planet, in a luxuriant and lush forest, one day suddenly hundreds of visitors arrived from outer space. When they appeared, they could smell the refreshing fragrance pervading the nature, and a refreshing feeling sprung up in their hearts. Perhaps it had just lightly rained, few drops of rainwater were still on the leaves. A wind blew, and the rainwater dripped down the leaves onto the ground, which under the sunshine's illumination, emitted bright and beautiful colors. The sun had just passed through the treetops, and a thin layer of mist rose between the lofty mountain range. Sir Xiaya, is this Earth? It's so beautiful. Laughing voice of girls could be heard, their words containing delight. This feeling of being wrapped in nature made La Fulai and others extremely delighted. Yes, this should be Earth. Xiaya was surrounded by a lot of things. The environment here was precisely the same as that of Universe 7's Earth. So, it must be Earth. You all first wait here. I'll go and get some clothes for you. Xiaya looked at them and said. These girls were all sparsely clothed. It's harmful to public morals. I should first bring them some clothes. We are troubling you, Sir Xiaya. La Fulai's voice was full of gratitude. Xiaya took a glimpse at them and then instantly disappeared in front of their eyes. Before long, Xiaya returned with a hoi poi capsule filled with women's clothes. While he went out, he had also conveniently checked out the situation of this Earth. On the whole, there is not much difference between Universe 6's Earth and Universe 7's Earth. Both are low-level planets and mainly occupied by humans. However, on Universe 6's Earth, the general atmosphere of training in martial arts seems to be a little more intense, and martial arts level is also higher by a little bit. Chapter 157, Gain or Loss. Compared with Universe 7, Universe 6's Earth overall strength was undoubtedly more powerful, but it seems that because of internal schools differences, Earth's martial arts groups were not at all harmonious. They were divided into several opposing forces, endlessly fighting each other. But these have nothing to do with Xiaya. He just intends to stay here temporarily, and consolidate his strength. Before, when fighting with Bofiai, Xiaya was injured very severely. So, after he recovered his injuries with senzu beans, his battle power had obviously improved. Now he reckons that it has exceeded 1,000,000 points. This sudden increase in his strength requires him to spend some time to master it and stabilize it. Keeping his eyes away, he passed the clothes to La Fulai and other girls. Soon, the rustling sounds of changing clothes could be heard. Embarrassed, Xiaya walked far away. Sir Xiaya, we are done changing. Speaking in a soft and crisp voice, La Fulai walked over, dressed in the brand new clothes. The sight of hundreds of gorgeously dressed girls standing together in front of him, especially when these girls were graceful elves, was like hundreds of flowers blooming in spring. Simply fascinating. Xiaya looked at them and nodded, saying, Earth's environment is pretty good. All of you should first settle down here. Yes, Sir Xiaya. La Fulai nodded. Seeing Princess La Fulai nod, the girls followed her lead and also one by one agreed. These girls seemed to love forests, and Xiaya also felt that it was really not safe to bring the girls to the city. So, he took them to find the nearby forest that was far away from the bustling civilization, intending to settle them down. Arriving at an open ground, Xiaya took out a small box of hoi poi capsules from the dimensional space before taking out one of them and threw it out after switching it on. With a puff of smoke, numerous luxurious villas suddenly appeared above the clear open ground. Those numerous villas were all 3-story buildings. It wouldn't be a problem for so many buildings to accommodate few hundred people. You live here first, as for other things we can talk later, Xiaya said while pointing to those numerous villas before walking towards his own room under the astonished eyes of La Fulai and others. Princess La Fulai, is this magic? How did so many houses appear in an instant? After Xiaya had walked away, several girls looked around everywhere, feeling it a novelty as they chattered. Maybe it's some kind of technology. La Fulai stared blankly for a while before she took a deep breath, saying, "It doesn't matter. Since Sir Xiaya had arranged for us to live here, we should comply with his wish." "Yes, Princess." The girls nodded. Regarding Xiaya, the hero who rescued them from the wolves' den, they were full of gratitude from the bottom of their hearts. Therefore, they all settled down under La Fulai's command. On the other side, after Xiaya entered his room, he first turned on the hot water and took a comfortable bath in the bathroom. The warm and cool appropriate temperature of the water immediately dispelled his body's fatigue. Although physical exhaustion after the fight has already been dispelled by senzu beans, mental fatigue has still accumulated. In the bathtub, Xiaya clenched his fist and felt the immense surging strength flowing within his body. A bright gleam flashed in his shining eyes. Fighting with Bofei has caused his battle power to upgrade to 1.04 million, the extent of the increase cannot be regarded as small. Immediately he loosened his fist and inwardly thought, "This time, my fight with Bofei was really dangerous. If it weren't for me launching instant transmission at the end to dodge, it is really difficult to predict whether I would have lived or died. However, I really made a mistake this time, letting Bofei plot against me. Making mistakes during fights is often fatal, especially in an important battle. The danger this time has rung an alarm bell for Xiaya. You can't lower your guard at any time during the fight." This is a lesson he had learned from the mistake. "I altogether took 3 senzu beans during the fight, but only the first senzu bean made my battle power increase by leaps and bounds, while the latter 2 times seemed to have only restored my physical strength and energy without increasing my strength." Xiaya carefully summarized. Saiyans' constitution is such that their strength can advance by leaps and bounds after getting near-death severe injuries. However, this obviously requires previous accumulation. Effects from near-death injuries were more like opening and closing a switch that stimulates all the potential accumulated before, rather than endlessly breaking through. There are few examples in the original work where Son Goku and Vegeta had used senzu beans to break through. Whether it is Planet Namek Saga, Android Saga, or later Majin Buu Saga, senzu beans were only used to recover physical strength and didn't brought about breakthroughs in training. But, near-death breakthroughs are also extremely dangerous situations. One can accidentally die. So it is best to just honestly train. With that in mind, Xiaya also thought of his space-time ability. In the fight, he had basically hasn't used any of his abilities. It was not that he hadn't wanted to use them, but the few trivial abilities he has had already lost their function in the high-intensity fight. Because of that, it slowly helped him in making some improvements to his defense and speed. The current situation of his space-time ability power was very awkward. Not useful in high-level fights but has no need to be used in low-level fights. When instant transmission encounters a strong expert like Bofei, the success rate is difficult to ensure due to enemy's aura interfering with space. Space-time ability's power as a big move, though huge, is also very energy-consuming, and cannot be used lightly. And this point seemingly cannot be solved by using senzu beans. Once moves such as space shackles and space-time freeze are used, experts like Bofei can naturally be easily dealt with. However, as energy consumption is too big for such moves, it somehow wasn't worth to use it when dealing with Bofei. Moreover, if by any chance, a situation appears where the enemy was able to break free of space-time ability like last time it had happened during his fight with Cooler, the injuries from the backlash would be too great. It seems that one can only rely on one's own hard power when fighting and abilities are merely used as support. Only like this can one grow steadily. Xiaya couldn't help but sigh. For the rest of the days, Xiaya trained while staying in this mountainous area which was far away from the human habitation. 4 months quickly passed away. During this 4-month period, Xiaya meditated every day and gradually merged and mastered the increased power within his body. 1 million battle power, it can neither be said to be too much nor too little. It would take a while and patience to really master it, and Xiaya is a person who must achieve perfection and is very serious about training. In his spare time, he calmly focused on researching the use of every technique, such as energy wave. How to exert the greatest might. How to use it to produce the least self-consumption. These are some things that need to be pondered over and over. Just like when ancients created gunpowder. From the rough ratios at the beginning to the ratios of black gunpowder later on, and then again the ratios for high-intensity explosives, which one was not carefully researched. Naturally, he who has permanent possessions has perseverance. Only after he has a solid foundation, he will be able to patiently research. But he would need profound knowledge to fully make use of that foundation. To say it in a small manner, it is skill, while saying it in a big manner, it is martial arts. Similarly, after these several months passed, Xiaya and other girls of Divine Tree Star also finally walked out of the shadow in their hearts. Their life on earth gradually became cheerful, and slowly the smiles on their faces increased. One day, La Fulai took a dry and small senzu bean from Xiaya and examined it. She placed it beside her lips, her pearly white teeth lightly biting it, and abundant natural vitality spread inside her mouth. What do you think? Did you learn something? Xiaya walked over and seeing La Fulai lost in thought with a senzu bean in her mouth, asked. Sir Xiaya. La Fulai hurriedly stood up. Tell me, what do you think? Xiaya waved his hand at her. He was also curious whether this natural elf girl had learned something. A beautiful blush appeared on La Fulai's face as she spoke. This senzu bean seems to have been ripened by special methods. It does not grow naturally, and it seems to contain a strange substance, so it has magical effects of healing and removing pain. It's just that these effects come with a price, La Fulai said with certainty. Xiaya nodded his head. Nothing can be obtained without a price. Senzu beans are grown using ultra-divine water, and ultra-divine water was a highly toxic medicinal water which was exceedingly dangerous besides developing potential. Go on, indicating for La Fulai to continue speaking. Xiaya slightly nodded towards her. When senzu bean is healing injuries, it is actually consuming a part of body's potential which is transformed into a natural force for healing. This will inevitably cause the increase in strength to slow down for a period of time after the senzu bean is used, La Fulai said with certainty. As natural elves were born from the fruit of the divine tree, she was particularly sensitive to the effects of the senzu beans. And since Saiyans like Sir Xiaya have inherently great potential, even though consuming senzu bean after serious injuries will consume a part of their potential, it can still greatly increase their strength, but then they will require a long time to accumulate. Senzu beans certainly cannot make Saiyans endlessly increase their strength, depleting potential in exchange for quick recovery near death. This was similar to what Xiaya had guessed. It's just that eating too many senzu beans will make the future training difficult. Just like initially when a severe injury may require 6 months to recover. However, senzu beans can allow you to recover in an instant, but the price is the slow growth for the latter half or even 1 year of training time. Whether a gain or loss is a gain or loss will vary from person to person. For those who are seriously injured and near death, it would naturally be a gain, but for those who only have to use little physical strength and rest for a while to recover, it is undoubtedly a huge loss. It seems that in future, if not seriously injured and near death, he must not eat too many senzu beans. Xiaya's eyebrows were furrowed as he suddenly a trace of enlightenment. Chapter 158, Different Holy Tower. Well, has your life on earth been comfortable during this time? Xiaya asked. These days, Xiaya was absorbed in training. He had paid very little attention to these elf girls, only interacting with this La Fulai person. Thank you, Sir Xiaya, we're good, La Fulai said with a smile. Life on earth could be considered very comfortable, but it doesn't have the atmosphere like their home world. They have always been worried about their home world which was occupied by aliens. Don't know what has happened to Mother Goddess and other sisters. La Fulai heaved a sigh. Their luck could be considered to be quite good as they met the powerful and kind Sir Xiaya. The other sisters may not have been so fortunate. Perhaps they had been sold away by other aliens. Xiaya looked at the girl's delicate face and couldn't help but think of Xiling and Myers. I have been away for a while, and I still doesn't have any news of the last Super Dragon Ball. Perhaps he should go back. Gently patting the girl's head, Xiaya said, La Fulai, you don't have to be too worried. I can go to your home world to take a look later when I have time and if necessary can lend a hand. Really? Thank you, Sir Xiaya. La Fulai's beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. Her bright and beautiful little face was flushed with excitement, instantly becoming lively. Xiaya looked at her and lightly nodded. Oh, by the way, I'm going out somewhere, I'll leave this place to you. If any wild beast or human comes over, remember to guard against them. Xiaya knows these girls' strength. Their battle power of 70 and 80 was indeed very weak as far as those aliens were concerned. But, dealing with some wild animals and untrained earthlings should not be a problem. As long as La Fulai and others do not encounter martial artists, it should be enough to defend themselves. Rest assured, Sir Xiaya. Leave this place to us. La Fulai straightened out her chest and promised. It definitely couldn't be seen from her adorable appearance that she is the princess of a race. Okay. Xiaya nodded and then immediately soared to the sky. After reaching 10,000 meters high in the sky, he suddenly accelerated in a direction. A beam of light broke through the air like an arrow and quickly became a small black shadow, disappearing into the horizon. Looking at Sir Xiao's receding silhouette, La Fulai lifted up her white fists to encourage herself, and then while happily humming a song, she went to find her sisters. Right now, she was feeling happy like never before. The blue sky was clear, and snowy white clouds floated in the air which along with the changes in the wind changed into various shapes. Their transparent appearance was like delicious cotton candy. This Earth's martial artists are divided into opposing organizations because of different schools. Compared with Universe 7's Earth, although it is a bit more powerful, it was more practical and less natural. It is no wonder that Earthlings of Universe 6 became extinct in future because of war. Xiaya inwardly thought while flying. The clear light wind brushed past his collar, producing rustling sounds. Several thin strands of hair blowing beside his ear were fluttering in the cool breeze. His brand new white training suit drew a straight line because of the blowing wind. Well, Korin Tower is probably in this direction as there are several powerful auras in this direction. Is there also Korin Tower and lookout on this earth? Xiaya inwardly thought, instantly accelerating his speed. A rapid flash suddenly burst out and like an arrow suddenly streaked across the sky. After a fleeting glimpse, Xiaya's figure appeared hundreds of kilometers away in the blink of an eye. It was North Pole glaciers covered with brilliant white snow. Cold water vapor mixed with piercing cold winds made everything look cold. There were lumps of ice hanging between mountains, rivers, and forests. His view was entirely covered with snow-white icicles. Under the sunlight's illumination, it looked like he had entered the world of ice and snow in children's fairy tales. It's really different from Sacred Land of Korin. In Universe 7's Earth, Sacred Land of Korin was located in a vast plain of forest in the northern hemisphere, while this place was obviously the Iceland in the North Pole. However, among the white snow-covered grotesque mountain peaks, Xiaya saw a towering pillar rise to the sky, disappearing after passing through the clouds. There is also a holy tower here, and there are several powerful auras above the tower. Xiaya grinned and quickly flew upwards following the tower. It was an enormous tower similar to the Korin Tower but with few differences. The tower was shaped like a pentagonal cylinder with layers superimposed one above the other. The tower was about 1 meter wide. Each layer protruded out by 10-degree vertex angle. The protrusions form an arc-shaped groove inside. At every 3 or 4 meters distance, there would be a tube-shaped dividing line just like many large nuts stacked together. The tower was engraved with various strange cuneiform patterns and crooked mysterious characters. Similar to Korin Tower, but different in style. After roughly assessing, Xiaya followed upwards along the tower and in few seconds reached the top of the tower, which was a quadrilateral cube. Shoo! Xiaya stepped into the tower and found that there was a lean old man inside. It was the guardian of the holy tower, same as Korin. His battle power not strong, around 400. For a human, it's not bad. Xiaya inwardly thought. Mysterious young man, you are. Seeing Xiaya suddenly appear on top of the tower, the guardian of the holy tower was somewhat surprised. Still, when he saw the other person standing upright and unafraid, neither haughty nor humble, and faintly revealing the temperament of a leader between his forehead, he was curious regarding the other's origin. A top expert. The old guardian was shocked. Such a thought suddenly flashed in his heart. But, is it possible for there to be such a young expert in the world? You don't have to care about who I am, old man. Xiaya's expression was indifferent as he took out a senzu bean before throwing it out. Do you have anything like this bean here? The guardian saw the young man took out a bean out of thin air and the shocked expression on his face became even heavier. He quickly took the senzu bean and looked it over for a while before shaking his head. I'm sorry, I have never seen this kind of bean before. There are no senzu beans here. Seeing that other party doesn't seem to be lying, Xiaya nodded his head. He found it embarrassing to take back the senzu bean, so he directly jumped out of the tower and flew upwards even higher towards lookout. Perhaps, it may have something different there. You can have this senzu bean. An indistinct sound came from far away. Listening to it, the lean guardian hurriedly went to the edge of the tower and looked up, but he could no longer see the silhouette of that man. Who was that young man? Why did the ki in my body faintly trembled when he was standing in front of me? The guardian of the tower had a confused expression on his face while leaning on a cane, but soon he sighed heavily. Nowadays, the conflicts between the Earth's martial artists have intensified, and it is possible that war will break out at any time. At this time, such a mysterious expert has suddenly appeared on the Earth. Don't know if it is a blessing or a curse. Chapter 159, First Time Meeting King Kai. Above the holy tower, the sky was empty and quiet. Here, the air was unusually thin, and with blue sky for thousands of miles, even a single cloud was very rare. In the vast and clear sky, an enormous inverted conical mountain peak was suspended amidst the blue sky, and has been for countless years. Xiaya found that Universe 6's holy tower and lookout were not like Universe 7, which prefer ordinary smooth and round style. They instead have polygonal style with comparatively hard edges and corners. They may be a little more forceful and have a little less leeway in style, causing Universe 6 Earth's martial arts to become more ruthless and tyrannical, and disputes even fiercer. The saying that different environment nurtures different traits in its residents is usually not wrong. Inside the giant floating mountain, there were magnificent buildings built at the foot of a hill and beside a lake. These buildings were built at the foot of the hill, while towering divine palaces stood tall and upright at the top of the hill. Underneath the divine palaces, the group of magnificent jade buildings appeared even more gorgeous under the sunshine. At the foot of the mountain, there was a spring flowing with crystal clear gurgling water. Between lush green pine trees on the mountain forest, many elegant and ancient buildings were spread out, forming a clear contrast with the towering divine palaces. At this time, a group of human martial artists living on the lookout was arguing about the differences in the theories of martial arts. Every one of them was arguing with red faces, almost about to fight. Just when they were arguing with each other, suddenly, a frightening imposing aura brazenly swept through the entire heavenly realm. The aura was serene and far away, unprecedentedly powerful, as it pressed down on them, making it difficult for them to breathe. Such a frightening aura, who the hell is it? There is still such an expert on Earth. Those martial artists, each and every one was shocked beyond description. SSS. They sucked in a mouthful of chilly air. The scene was extremely silent. Without caring about their little arguments, they arrived on the square at the center of the lookout. At the center of the lookout, a young man dressed in white training clothes was leisurely standing tall and upright. He looked around in all directions before walking towards them. These group of martial artists living in the heavenly realms lookout was the most outstanding group of people in the human race. Even though they endlessly argue with each other because of martial arts theories, such that even large-scale conflicts would break out from time to time, they, however, still have some ability to make discerning judgments. The moment they saw Xiaya, they knew that they were definitely not the young man's opponent. This made the self-proclaimed experts' faces burn. Who is this young man? They were puzzled in their hearts, but they dared not be neglectful and hurriedly welcomed him. Sen. Senior, as they do not know how to address the young man, they could only use senior after thinking for a long time. How could there be so many people training in the heavenly realm? Xiaya asked in surprise. Look out, this kind of place which purifies one's heart and reduces people's desires shouldn't have so many people. Just like Lookout of Universe 7, where besides Mr. Popo and Kami, it's usually rare to have martial artists climb up there. However, there were so many people living here that it was just like a small town. Looking at the strength of these people, he could see that it was just so, but their realms were not very high. Just now, they were apparently arguing for some reason, turning the entire heavenly realm chaotic, and affected by these martial arts leaders, even the order of the lower realm became a complete mess. Which one of you is Kami? Xiaya asked. Kami. The human martial artists all stared blankly for a while, and looked at each other before asking, what's Kami? You don't even know Kami. How did you come here to train? Xiaya spoke in astonishment. One of them stepped forward and said, this city in the air was accidentally discovered several hundred years ago by older generation martial artists while training. Then, seeing that the environment here was beautiful and helpful for training, one by one expert came up here to live. We don't know who built this place, maybe it was the so-called Kami that Senior mentioned. Even Kami's inheritance has been cut off? Xiaya was really surprised, immediately nodding. He had even lost his interest in this place. These people with 600 or 700 battle powers lacked Kami's guidance. It's no wonder that they had only trained their strength and not the realm. In creativity, always feeling something lacking. Compared with Universe 7's Earth, the human martial artists here were contaminated with even more secular aura. What kind of sacred place is the heavenly realm? Can just anyone casually come up here? In Universe 7, if someone wants to ascend to the heavenly realm and receive Kami's pointers, which one of them is not outstanding, and had passed through layers upon layers of tests to obtain Koran permission. Moreover, never have any martial artist lived in Lookout for a long time. Unlike here, which has simply become a small city. Forget it, I should go back. Xiaya had initially wanted to see what kind of magical place Universe 6's Holy Tower and Heavenly Realm is. Now, it seems to have completely transformed into a secular place. Seeing Xiaya turn around and leave, those martial artists who live in the Heavenly Realm looked at each other, but they didn't go and stop him, even feeling relieved because of him leaving. It's good that this young man is leaving. If he stays, who knows if he decides to become the owner of the Heavenly Realm. Xiaya flew down the Heavenly Realm. He felt dispirited while rushing back as he heard those martial artists quarreling. This Earth's martial arts had disappointed him somewhat. Despite being strong, it has already gone astray. These ambitious and aggressive human race will sooner or later be destroyed in their hands. Just as Xiaya was about to return to the forest where he was living temporarily, a deep voice suddenly came to his ears. Mysterious human expert, listen to my words. Who? Xiaya paused and asked with a doubtful expression. I'm King Kai, who is in charge of the entire north area. Right now, I'm talking to you via thoughts. That voice continued speaking. North Kai. This name flashed through Xiaya's mind like a flash of lightning. It seemed that his existence has finally been noticed by King Kai. Hence, he was calm and collected as he asked, I wonder why King Kai is looking for me. As the Kai who is in charge of 1/4 of the galaxy, North Kai's status can be said to be aloof and remote, and similar to Kami, people have no chance to meet King Kai throughout their life. Xiaya does not believe that King Kai will talk to him without any reason. Hehe, young man, I had started to pay attention to you from the time you fought with Bofiai. After observing, I discovered that you are not an evil person. I have the information that you need and want to make a deal with you. You know Planet Vegeda's instant transmission ability. Why don't you make a trip to this King Kai's planet? We will then properly talk. North Kai issued an invitation to Xiaya. Planet Vegeta? Xiaya was surprised at this unfamiliar planet, but he soon understood that this should be a place similar to Planet Yardrat. Anyway, North Kai is saying that he has information I need. Is it the whereabouts of the last Super Dragon Ball? Whether it is or not, Xiaya intends to take a look at King Kai's planet. Okay, I'll come at once. After finished talking with King Kai, Xiaya began to look for the location of Planet Kai, and soon he locked onto King Kai's position. Then with an instant transmission, he directly moved. At the same time, in a higher dimension connected together with Underworld. In the endless blue sky, golden clouds were floating like a golden ocean, leisurely floating with the subtle waves. North Kai's planet was surrounded by these golden clouds. Its environment was permeated with a serene and sacred atmosphere. King Kai ended his conversation with Xiaya and quietly waited. About a few seconds later, he saw a brilliant flash of light flickering on King Kai's planet, following which he saw Xiaya's figure appear in front of him. So fast! King Kai was surprised. He initially thought it would take a while to launch Planet Vegeda's instant transmission. He didn't expect it to be so fast. Xiaya appeared on King Kai's planet and immediately felt an enormous natural gravitational pull on his body. His body slightly shook, but very quickly, his footsteps stabilized without the slightest bit of stagnation. 30x gravity. This was the gravity of King Kai's planet. This small amount of gravity has no burden on him at all. Just like how Son Goku in the original work could endure 100x gravity after reaching 90,000 battle power. At this time, Xiaya, who has more than 1 million battle power, could easily endure 500x gravity. Bringing up this subject, 500x gravity training room built by Fedea people had lost its use to the present Xiaya. Now, if he wants to train, either build a much larger gravity machine or look for a supergravity planet in the universe. For Xiaya, who has the star chart of the universe in his hands, it is clear that the second option is more feasible. Chapter 160, Fountain of Youth. Quickly adapting to the gravity of King Kai's planet, Xiaya soon noticed that this planet was close to 5 kilometers in diameter. It was covered in lush green tender grass, and there were rows of dense shrubs on both sides of a blue path. Compared with Universe 7 North Kai's planet, it was much bigger. This is the size a King Kai should have for his divine planet. Universe 7 North Kai's divine planet was too small. It was the result of being destroyed by God of Destruction Beerus. It is said that North Kai once also had a vast divine planet. Young man, welcome to my planet. Universe 6 North Kai's deep voice could be heard. Xiaya went in the direction from which the voice had come, and saw a thin green-skinned figure standing before him. He was wearing green divine clothes. He has 2 antennas on top of his head. These are the antennas that King Kai uses to look over the situations of areas under his jurisdiction. Kai-sama, I don't know what deal you want to make with me. Xiaya asked. Ha ha ha, I know that your conflict with Bofiai and his sons happened due to a dark orange crystal planet. And I happen to know the whereabouts of another crystal planet. I will use the information of that crystal planet to make a deal with you. King Kai laughed, slowly walking towards a direction. What does Kai-sama need me to do? After learning that North Kai know the whereabouts of the last Super Dragon Ball, Xiaya was exhilarated as he followed. Hehe, you should know that Bofiai Trading Center is a stronghold established by the Universe Commerce Alliance in the North area. Although that evil Bofiai and his sons were killed by you, as long as Universe Commerce Alliance wants to, it can again quickly establish the stronghold. Do you want me to eradicate Universe Commerce Alliance's forces in the North area? Xiaya frowned. Universe Commerce Alliance forces were deeply rooted, and it was not possible to eradicate them just relying on his strength. Of course not. Although I also want to completely eradicate the Universe Commerce Alliance, I know that it is not possible. King Kai heaved a sigh and looked at Xiaya, saying, I just want you to kill the several agent candidates of the trading center. Bofiai had snatched the trading center's agent position from these people several hundred years ago, after which those people lay low in the north area. Now that Bofiai and his sons are dead, I am afraid that those people will again become restless. If they are all killed, North area can at least be calm for several decades. Even if afterward another agent is selected, the agent's strength will not be too strong. How many people and how strong are they? Xiaya asked. King Kai laughed and said, altogether 17 people, and they are naturally less powerful than Bofiai. When Bofiai had defeated them years ago, he did not even use key ignition. Their battle power should be between 150,000 and 600,000. Xiaya inwardly pondered after listening to him. If according to North Kai's words, these people's battle power was not very high, even if they had made a significant breakthrough, it would have only reached 700,000 to 800,000, which was nothing in front of him whose battle power had reached more than 1 million. Besides, he had even defeated Bofiai. If they were stronger than Bofiai, how can Bofiai possibly forcibly occupy the trading center? Although that dark orange crystal planet looks beautiful and has some value as a collection, I don't think just its information is enough in exchange for me to take action and kill them. Xiaya stood there pretending to consider for a moment before he shook his head. Of course, Xiaya also understands the principle of waiting for a better price. Using the information of Super Dragon Ball in exchange for him to take action, is obviously enough. However, that is because he knows the use of the Super Dragon Ball, but which King Kai does not know. Using the planet's information in exchange for decades of peace in the north area. Clearly, it was King Kai that has made a huge profit. King Kai nodded his head. He also knows that if he wants Xiaya to take action in exchange for merely the information of a planet, the price was a little too small. So, he took out a small bright blue pot while feeling distressed. I will use this small pot of spring water from Yellow Springs Fountain of Youth, in addition to the information of that crystal planet to make a deal with you. Fountain of Youth, what's that? Xiaya asked. Looking at King Kai's distressed look, it should be a treasure. Fountain of Youth is a type of spirit water produced in the depths of other worlds' Yellow Springs. Gods can use it to refine elixir of immortality. Even if it is directly drunk, although it would not be magical like elixir of immortality, it can still also prolong one's life. By just drinking a mouthful, one can obtain several hundreds of years of lifespan. King Kai explained. Because this Fountain of Youth is located at the depths of the common border between other worlds hell and heaven. It can only condense a drop in several tens of years. Although it does not have any effects on gods, it can be used to refine the elixir of immortality which can be rewarded to human beings in the human world who have done meritorious deeds. It is very precious. If it wasn't for asking Xiaya to take action, King Kai wouldn't take it out even if he was beaten to death. Elixir of Immortality. Upon hearing this name, Xiaya's eyes suddenly lit up, as though he heard a familiar name, his thoughts spinning. Suddenly he recalled that Master Roshi seems to have consumed a so-called elixir of immortality and thus lived for so many years. Of course, true immortality does not exist. Birth and death are laws of nature and cannot be easily violated. Although it cannot allow one to live forever, it can extend their lifespan. Master Roshi and Master Shen had lived for several hundreds of years because they had consumed elixir of immortality when they were young. Although the effect of Fountain of Youth is not necessarily better than elixir of immortality, it is also a rare treasure. I must get this pot of Fountain of Youth. Xiaya's eyes shone brightly, he was determined to have this fountain water. How about it? If you promise to do it, not only will I tell you the whereabouts of that crystal planet, but will also give you this Fountain of Youth's pot. King Kai asked as he raised that small bright blue pot filled with Fountain of Youth. Okay, but you have to first tell me the location of the crystal planet. Xiaya nodded his head, agreeing. Seeing Xiaya agree, King Kai let out a sigh of relief before pointing to a lawn not far away, saying, there is the location of the crystal planet. Due to some special reason, no signal can be transmitted from that place. You can only find the exact location through my assistance. Come, put your hand on my back, I'll show you where the planet is. King Kai turned around and said to Xiaya. Hearing his words, Xiaya placed his hand on King Kai's back. He then saw the two antennas on King Kai's head slightly trembling, releasing electric rays. Xiaya felt his spirit travel through the universe, his mind along with Kai's electric waves drifted through the starry sky of the universe. Soon, in a dark and spacious star space, he noticed an enormous altar, whose boundary could not be seen. It had 5 layers and was surrounded by a layer of illusory and chaotic hazy substance, not allowing any signal to transmit. At the topmost position of the altar, the 37,000 kilometers diameter enormous super dragon ball was enshrined. Both that mysterious altar and crystal planet suddenly appeared 6 months ago. If you are able to, you can go and have a look. King Kai slowly said. Xiaya gazed at the last super dragon ball. 6 months ago. It was just at that time when he had lost the signal of the super dragon ball. The timing matches. It seems that altar is also something Vados had done. Chapter 161, La Fuli's new home. How is it? Now, I have given you the information about the crystal planet. As for the Fountain of Youth, I will give it to you after you have annihilated those trading centers' agent candidates. North Kai looked at Xiaya and said in a serious tone. Okay. Then, give me the list of names of those people. Xiaya nodded his head, agreeing. When making a deal, the deal object cannot be given to the other party at once. King Kai wants to withhold a portion as security, and only hand over the other half when the task is completed, which was reasonable. Xiaya naturally understand this principle. King Kai's green-skinned face revealed a smile before he brought Xiaya to his house, and took out a writing brush to write down those people's information. The house which King Kai lives in was a 4-story light green building. Semi-sphere style was really quite famous in the Dragon Ball world. Built in the shade of a lush forest, the small building was much more beautiful than Universe 7 North Kai's shabby cabin. Here, this is the list of names of all the 17 people. They are all very evil guys. Please make sure you kill them. King Kai passed on the list of names to Xiaya's hands while advising him. Xiaya took the list and swept at a glance. Seeing the 17 people's name and the planets where they were living flowingly written on the list, Xiaya nodded before putting away the list into dimensional space. He believes in King Kai's honesty, there was no need to fool him in this matter. So, he raised his head and said with a smile, leave them to me, I will take care of them one by one. King Kai, you just have to have the Fountain of Youth ready. Of course, I will wait here for your good news, King Kai said with a smile. Then, if there is no other command, I'll get going. After speaking jokingly, Xiaya turned around and took a step forward, and in the blink of an eye, his body turned into an afterimage, disappearing from King Kai's planet. Best of luck. Watching Xiaya's disappearing back, King Kai spoke to himself in his heart. Then restraining his smiling expression, he walked to a lawn. The antennas on his head trembled, connecting with several planets in the mortal world. If that young man can dispose of these scourge for me, North area can be peaceful for at least several hundreds of years. Then, it wouldn't matter even if I have to give him the Fountain of Youth. Thinking of how after those scourge are eliminated North area would become peaceful, King Kai's mood immediately became cheerful and felt content as he observed the mortal world. After receiving the list, instead of directly going to carry out the task, Xiaya first returned to Earth. Now that he has gotten the whereabouts of the last Dragon Ball, it can be said that he had reached the last step of his long journey, and his mood has also relaxed by a lot. But, thinking of Veto's behavior from before, she wouldn't possibly let him get the last Dragon Ball easily. That mysterious 5-story altar certainly hides some secret or a test. Xiaya inwardly thought, but before that, I should first go and finish the task given by North Kai. Fountain of Youth, this kind of rarely seen treasure, I must obtain no matter what. After deciding the matter of order of priority, Xiaya's body lightly leaped, returning to the forest where Lofulai and others were living. Entering the lush green forest, he saw sunlight streaming down from the gaps between the leaves on the trees, projecting bright spots of sunlight on the ground. Beside a gurgling stream, several attractive young girls were carrying bamboo baskets, and with face raised upward were plucking wild fruits in the forest. They liked naturally grown fruits the most. In these several months, they had also looked after Xiaya. Seeing Xiaya enter, they hurriedly put down the work in their hands and enthusiastically said, "Sir Xiaya, you are back." Xiaya responded, greeting them. He then casually chatted with them for a while before he returned to his room. Taking out the list of names obtained from King Kai, he carefully looked it over. Jihe, ruler of planet Aldasi, battle power 240,000, Balanji, ruler of planet Safida, battle power 340,000, AP. Xiaya carefully looked over information of each and every person in the list. In the list of names that North Kai gave him, there was no one who could be trifled with. Any one of them when placed in Universe 7 could insta-kill Captain Jinyu. However, because of Bofiai's existence, they all had to go into hiding. Sure enough, a hill cannot accommodate 2 tigers. Anyway, there are so many people, it's really troublesome. Xiaya's eyebrows were slightly knitted, but then he shook his head and revealed a confident smile. There's no rush in dealing with these people. First, I have to find a place for Lofulai and others to settle down. It has been 4 months since Lofulai and others started living together with Xiaya. In these days, thanks to their looking after him, he got even more time to organize and summarize martial arts related matter. He knows that after completing King Kai's task, he would directly go and get the last Super Dragon Ball before returning to Universe 7. So, he wants to make arrangements before that for Lofulai and others. They definitely cannot stay on Earth. Not speaking whether Lofulai and these weak girls can deal with outside dangers. Their appearance alone will cause them great trouble. Having a beautiful appearance is too dangerous if one is not strong enough to protect oneself. What's more, based on his understanding, Universe 6's Earth will turn into a dead planet in future due to a war. So, Xiaya even more has no reason to leave them here. Making up his mind, Xiaya walked out of the room and headed towards Lofulai and others' residence, but saw Lofulai and several other girls chatting in the garden. "Lofulai, come here." Xiaya waved his hand at Lofulai. "Princess, Sir Xiaya is calling you. Perhaps, something good is happening." Hearing this, the several girls on the side giggled and teased Lofulai, causing her pretty little face to blush red. "Go away, what are you thinking in that brain of yours?" Lofulai glared at them, then stood up and tidied up her wrinkled skirt before walking towards Xiaya. "Sir Xiaya," Lofulai spoke in a respectful tone. Xiaya nodded his head and said, "Lofulai, didn't you said that your home world has been occupied by aliens? I want to understand the situation of your home world. Sir Xiaya, are you going to save my home world?" Lofulai's body trembled from excitement, her face filled with expectations. "Yes, I plan to leave Earth. Therefore, I am going to find a relatively safe planet for you people while also drop by your home world and save some people," Xiaya said. "Sir Xiaya, you are going to leave?" Shocked, Lofulai had a bad feeling as she asked. "MHM." Xiaya nodded in affirmative. Lofulai's body shivered, mist rising in her eyes. But, she knows that Xiaya and her were not of the same world, and sooner or later will have to part. So, she put on a brave face and said, "Sir Xiaya, I want to thank you on behalf of my homeworld's people. If it were not for you, we really don't know what should we have done." Xiaya shook his head and said, "It's just a small matter. Likewise, thanks for your care for these several months. All right, I'll first choose a suitable planet for you people." Saying this, he closed his eyes and carefully searched for a suitable planet in Universe 6 for Lofulai and her people to live. Considering Lofulai and others' weak bodies as well their love for nature. When choosing a planet, Xiaya especially chose a planet which was far away from universe civilizations and has a beautiful natural environment. Although Lofuli doesn't know what Xiaya was doing with eyes closed, she didn't speak anything and cleverly stood on the side. Found it. Xiaya suddenly opened his eyes, and then he held Lofuli's hands, bringing her away with instant transmission. Chapter 162, Mother Goddess is no more. In the vast and boundless outer space, countless stars were moving in an unchanging trajectory. Eastern region of the North area. There was an emerald green-colored planet far away from the majority of the starfields. Since it was located far from civilizations, this place was not under the watch of the Universe Commerce Alliance. The emerald green-colored planet was called Planet Vegeta, and was a low-level planet. It has 60% ocean, and in the remaining 40%, besides few percentages being glaciers, the majority of the area was covered in green vegetation. Even plateaus and deserts are very rarely seen. It was a seldom seen planet with a relatively high safety factor such that even with Lofuli's race strength, they can live here in safety. Goo goo goo, a strange cry was heard. Inside a forest, a huge bird spread out its wings and soared into the sky. While, not far away from it, a leopard was holding its breath and was about to make a surprise attack on the antelope drinking water by the river bank. Nature's scene was very vividly presented here. Voila! A beam of light flashed, and Xiaya along with Lofuli appeared in a primeval forest of Planet Vegeta. Just as they arrived, an abundant nature's aura assaulted their nostrils. Breathing in the intoxicating fragrance pervading the air, Xiaya's mind became unusually clear. Roughly probing Planet Vegeta's auras, he found that the strongest living creature here has less than 100 battle power. Xiaya smiled towards Lofuli and said, "How is it? How do you feel about the environment here? The strongest living creature on this planet has less than 100 battle power. It should be quite suitable for you people. Nature's aura here is very abundant." Lofuli glanced around in all directions with a delighted expression. It could be seen that she was satisfied with the environment here. Xiaya nodded his head, "That's good. Then, I will bring you to have a look at the environment of the whole planet." Speaking this, he again held her hand and amidst her shrieks brought her several thousand meters high in the sky. Looking down from several thousands of meters high in the sky, the entire planet's horizon shows a very gentle and beautiful arc. As far as the eyes can see, everywhere were lush and green forests. Moreover, on the whole plain, mountains were very rarely seen. The forests were neatly arranged as if they were arranged in a meticulous manner, brimming with a sense of beauty. "Sir Xiaya, the environment here is as beautiful as my home world. I think everyone will definitely like it here." After a brief moment of fright, Lofuli's pretty face was blushing red due to the excitement. "I'm glad you like it. Then, I will first bring over those little girls, after which we'll go to your home world." Lofuli nodded. If not listened carefully, it wouldn't be heard. Xiaya glanced at her in surprise before laughing and immediately returning to Earth using instant transmission. As Lofuli joyously ran over to tell the good news to her sisters, Xiaya went inside the villas and pressed down a special button in the villa. Amidst dense white smoke, the villas again reverted back to hoi-poi capsules. By the time he had finished taking away all the living facilities, all the several hundred elf girls had gathered together. "Sir Xiaya, Princess Lofuli is saying that you have found a beautiful planet for us, is that really true?" Yet, also our home world, lots of sisters are suffering hardships." All the young and beautiful girls crowded over, speaking non-stop. Xiaya smiled and nodded towards them before indicating for them to form a circle. The girls took the hint and immediately according to Xiaya's instructions formed a circle. Swish, bright light rays lit up the entire forest. Staying on Earth for a short period of time like a group of travelers, everyone departed from Earth in the blink of an eye. New home, Planet Vegeta. The several hundred elves happily placed those hoi-poi capsules villas in their new home which have been gifted by Xiaya. Perhaps, as they were innately close to nature, even though this place was uninhabited, the girls were very comfortable living here. If it were someone else in their position, they would have perhaps long broken down due to loneliness and suffocation. Divine Tree Star, a very beautiful planet. Similar to Planet Vegeta, Divine Tree Star was also a low-level planet. It was inhabited by a race of elven girls who were innately close to nature. These girls were all birthed by a mother goddess Divine Tree. Since the girls in the race were attractive and charming, if they are sold and resold after grooming, a huge amount of profit can be earned in an instant. Therefore, Divine Tree Star finally come under the radar of other aliens from deep in the universe and the elf race here met with a disaster. One day, disc-shaped spaceships suddenly descended on Divine Tree Star. Then like wasps, aliens scrambled out of the ships, and seeing these elf girls, they were like a wild beast seeing a prey as they frantically captured them. Since Lofulai's race was inherently weak, facing these cruel aliens, they weren't able to resist at all. Countless of her people were caught and groomed by the evil aliens before being sent to various planets to be sold. Lofulai, this is your planet. Why is it so desolate? In the blue-green sky, a male and female were hovering in midair. Xiaya asked while frowning. After settling down the several hundred girls on planet Yetala, Xiaya brought Lofulai and arrived at her homeworld Divine Tree Star. Instead of the green like he had imagined, it was decaying and yellow, scenery extremely desolate. Looking down, the land was filled with large and small craters. Innumerable forests and trees had been uprooted, while leaves had withered and turned yellow. Furthermore, large expanse of the land had been burned into coke. Watching the desolate and decaying sight of her home world, Lofulai's heart welled up with sadness, the rims of her eyes turning red as bean-sized teardrops fell down. Suddenly, Lofulai thought of something and loudly shouted, agitated, "Oh no, homeworld has become like this. Mother Goddess must have met with a disaster." They, the nature elf, were all born from the divine tree on the Divine Tree Star. Lofulai and others call that divine tree Mother Goddess. If Mother Goddess had been damaged, then there will be no more nature elves being born in future. Although they can give birth to the next generation via union with humans, they would not be nature elves at that time. "Sir Xiaya, please bring me to where Mother Goddess is," Lofulai pleaded to Xiaya. Xiaya nodded his head, "Show me the directions." And soon afterward, Xiaya brought Lofulai into the sky, and under the way shown by Lofulai, set out towards the direction of Divine Tree. Rapid flickering lights flashed through the sky, and beautiful hairs on the temple swayed with the mild breeze. Clear and soft clouds rapidly flitted past them on both sides. But Lofulai wasn't in the mood to admire the scenery. Her heart was entirely concerned about Divine Tree's safety. "It is just ahead." A protruding shape was faintly revealed ahead. Xiaya nodded his head and immediately speed up. Soon, they arrived at Divine Tree's side, but the scene that greeted them caused Lofulai to feel despair. The more than 200 meters tall Divine Tree's trunk was covered with wounds caused by explosions. Some several meters thick branches were snapped off by a huge force, and the place where it was cut off still has burned marks. In particular, the huge crater at the root had severed the nutrient supply to the Divine Tree, causing the leaves to turn yellow and withered, and only the bare branches were left gently swaying in the wind. It appeared unusually desolate. Mother Goddess has been destroyed, those wicked aliens were too excessive." Lofulai's voice was filled with despair. Mother Goddess' death means nature elves' race had been completely severed. Chapter 163, Rescuing. "Lofulai, let's look if there are any survivors." Looking at the broken Divine Tree trunk, Xiaya sighed, not knowing how to console. "Right." Lofulai wiped away her tears and pulled herself together. "At that time, those evil aliens had appeared suddenly, so there were many of my people who had dispersed all over the planet. I must find them." Seeing Lofulai pull herself together at the mention of her people, Xiaya glanced at her in surprise. The elf's princess has to shoulder the responsibility of her race as the leader. Without thinking about it too much, Xiaya began to look for living beings on the planet based on key auras. However, as Lofulai's people were very weak, their aura could not be sensed from far away. But Xiaya had unexpectedly another harvest. He found that there were still a large number of seemingly powerful auras on the Divine Tree Star. Those auras ranged from several hundred to 1,000. They could not be Lofulai's people. So, it was quite obvious that those aliens who sold the elven girls were still on the Divine Tree Star. A long time has already passed since this planet was invaded by aliens. During this period of time, Lofulai's people were continuously caught and sold, so the elf survivors on the planet were not many. But, who would have thought that even in such a situation, there would still be people who wouldn't be satisfied, staying behind to round off everyone. About 500 kilometers from them, there was a temporary camp built by the aliens. It was the gathering ground for the elf-hunting aliens, and loading and unloading port for spaceships. Tall tower-like buildings were standing erect on the ground, as the soft ground was thoroughly transformed to allow taking off and landing of huge cargo spaceships. At this moment, a group of delicate and lovely girls was locked up in large cages. Like transporting goods, the cages were loaded into spaceships with conveyor belts. Those girls' tear stains haven't dried yet, while the look in their eyes was blank and empty. Hurry up, after this batch is done, we will be able to leave here with the spaceships. At that time if Mr. Banis is happy, he may reward everyone with a lot of money. The subleader of aliens was sitting cross-legged, as he loudly urged others to work. The entire merchant team was employed by Banis. Because Divine Tree Star was discovered by him, he made a fortune by selling Lofuli's people, and now he had become a not small universe merchant. Hey, Captain Oak, this is what you have said. If Mr. Banis isn't willing to give it when the time comes, then you have to make up for it to everyone. An alien who looked like a pterosaur flapped the wings behind him, and said with a mocking expression. What did you say? If Mr. Banis is willing to reward, then Mr. is generous, and if he isn't willing, then you shouldn't even think of getting a single penny from me. Hearing him, the subleader Oak immediately glared. Ha ha ha, Captain Oak and Mr. Banis are both well-known misers. Expecting them to give us an additional reward, you don't even have to think about it. An alien working on the side exclaimed. Employer Banis was born as a small fry. Although he was lucky enough to make a fortune, his nature was of a miser, and it was tough to get even a penny from him. And their Captain Oak was obviously also not a generous person. They all know. Right, work. The group of aliens shook heads, feeling disappointed. The big iron cages loaded with girls were moved onto the space freighters. After this business is finished, both the merchant group and employer Banis could make a considerable profit. La Fuli, it seems that we have come in time. Bringing along La Fuli, Xiaya arrived in the sky above the camp, and whispered to the girl on his side as he looked at the busy scene below. Sir Xiaya, please take action and save my people. La Fuli begged. Looking at the young girls locked up in the cages below, La Fuli remembered the scene of being auctioned in front of a large crowd after she was caught and taken away, and hatred flashed in her beautiful eyes. It was precisely this gang of brutish space mercenaries that not only invaded Divine Tree Star, breaking the tranquility here, but also captured and sold away countless elf girls. In the end, they had even killed the mother goddess. Okay, then you take care of yourself. Xiaya nodded and put down La Fuli in a safe place. Then, he turned around, and step by step walked towards the aliens. These aliens hired by Banis were not very strong. There weren't even a few people with more than 1,000 battle power. This kind of group could only throw their weight around on such a low-level planet like Divine Tree Star and towards defenseless, weak girls. Who? Seeing someone walking towards them, Oak and other aliens loudly shouted with vigilance. Shua, 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 the group of people adopted a defensive stance. With graceful bearing, Xiaya walked towards them with light and leisurely steps. His steps were not big, but the distance seems to have lost meaning on his body. Each step covered a few meters distance. This bizarre real and unreal scene intertwined, making these aliens look on blankly, and instinctively feeling panic. Who are you? This is Mr. Banis' territory. Be sensible and quickly leave. Oak's face sank as he shouted with uncertainty. Banis's territory? But I am sure that this is Divine Tree Star, an elf's planet. Xiaya glanced at them, saying with a shake of his head. Courting death. At this time, how can Captain Oak still not sense the hostility in the other person's heart? His complexion turned gloomy as an imposing aura was released from his body. Upon seeing this, the several space mercenaries in the surroundings also simultaneously released their aura. Hee. Xiaya still leisurely walked forward as if strolling in his courtyard. He didn't pay any attention to other person's warning. Tut, there are only 3 whose battle power is more than 1,000, while the rest are only 600 or 700. This small amount of strength was barely enough to fill the gap between his teeth. Stop! This place has now been occupied by Mr. Banis. If you are sensible, I would suggest you leave immediately. We can ignore your mistake. Captain Oak's countenance was grave, as he warned with dread on his face. Didn't you understand what I said a moment ago? I don't care who that your so-called Banis is, I only know that this Divine Tree Star is elves' planets, and these girls are under my protection. After he finished speaking, Xiaya's aura burst out. The air quivered, and Oak and other people's countenance had a huge change. Lightly lifting his finger, several light dots suddenly flickered between his fingers, and then like arrows rapidly shot out. Hualala, arrow bullets appeared in the air and turned into a big delicate and beautiful flower bud. The breeze gently blew, and the flower bud immediately bloomed, turning into numerous tiny energy beams like a dense drizzle. Do. The drizzle-like delicate and beautiful petals flickered with glittering and translucent rays of lights, and scattered high in the sky. For a moment, it was as if hundreds of flowers were in bloom, extremely dazzling. But, the tiny petals were however extremely frightening, like small rays which kills without spilling blood. They silently riddled through the row of aliens standing in front. SSS. With an incredulous expression, Oak's eyes became dim, the space between his eyebrows was pierced through by a small tiny ray. His thoughts gradually became sluggish, before he lost consciousness. Run, Captain Oak has been killed. The death of Oak and their comrades at the front caused the aliens who were on high alert, to become dismayed. Until someone suddenly shouted, and everyone was startled awake. They realized that the man in front of them could not be provoked. Didn't even the Captain Oak was killed by him in one blow? Run, if we don't run away now, then it would be too late to escape. Quickly, get out of the way. Aliens who weren't attacked by the energy raindrops were scared out of their wits because of Oak and others' death. The desire to survive had made them crazy as everyone fled towards the spaceship or bunker. Immediately, the scene became extremely chaotic. You guys have done too many evil deeds. No matter what, you all must die today. Xiaya's voice was like the judgment from hell, deciding their life and death with just a word. Lightly waving his arms, another energy ball appeared before it immediately changed into countless raindrops. Numerous flowing arrows penetrated through the air as if they were directly ignoring the distance between spaces. Innumerable light rays shone on the land. Rustle, the raindrops came pouring down, but these raindrops were all composed of pure energy, and wherever they passed, everything was destroyed in the way. In the blink of an eye, all the aliens died in Xiaya's hands. All right, La Fulai, go and save your people. Lightly waving his hand in the direction where La Fulai was hiding, Xiaya said with a smile. La Fulai responded. Then, she rushed over and opened the iron cages in which her people were locked. Boo-hoo, Princess La Fulai, you are still alive. A lot of people were caught and taken away. La Fulai, Mother Goddess. Mother Goddess had been killed by those evil aliens. These beautiful young girls have been frightened for days. So, when they saw La Fulai, the depression in their hearts gushed out, and they all wept out their grief. Feeling sad, La Fulai hugged them and also burst into tears. Seeing them, Xiaya walked far away. Roughly looking over, he could see that there were more than 10,000 girls in this temporary base. This was still only a tiny part of the original number. There were still many elves who had been sold away. Towards this, Xiaya was also unable to do anything. Chapter 164, The Final Objective. Oh, by the way, can your mother tree really not be saved? It can give birth to elves like you, it's impossible that it doesn't have any method to survive. After a while, Xiaya walked over and asked. This is Sir Xiaya. Thanks to him, we sisters have been saved. La Fulai made the introduction to her people. Sir Xiaya. Everyone was full of gratitude. Xiaya's words reminded La Fulai of the so-called saying onlookers see everything more clearly. La Fulai considered Xiaya's words and her eyes suddenly brightened, yet, once in ancient times a meteorite from outer space had struck the divine tree star. All the living beings had perished at that time, and only Mother Goddess had survived. That destructive power should have been much more powerful than it was now. The Mother Goddess had survived at that time. La Fulai was excited. Let's go to where Mother Goddess is. So, everyone once more returned to the place where the divine tree was, and looked at the huge and weathered ancient tree which seems to have survived for unknown years. La Fulai and others' hearts were filled with reverence for the Mother Goddess, while Xiaya sighed at a living being's tenacity. Now that the mother tree's branches and leaves had withered, only the trunk was left, and the charred black place even extends to half the body, but it still stood straight. Seeing this, La Fulai and other elves couldn't help but grieve in their hearts, their noses turning sour. Look, there is a small hole in the mother tree's root. It seems there is something. An astonished cry appeared. Xiaya sought out the sound and looked over, and sure enough, he discovered a cave of a person's size at the root of the huge divine tree. The large cave was buried more than 3 meters deep under the ground. As there happened to have a steep slope, it was difficult to find without looking carefully. I'll go in and look. La Fulai said. Xiaya shrugged, standing by. La Fulai was the princess of her race, and she needs to step in at this time. After a while, he saw La Fulai come out while cautiously using a leaf to hold something. Her whole body was brimming with a joyful smile. It was a fresh green seed that was flickering with sparkling and translucent green light under the sunlight. This is Mother Goddess seed. With it, Mother Goddess can grow again. At this moment, when the dazzling sunlight shone down, the darkness in their hearts seems to have been illuminated, as the haze in the bottom of their hearts dispersed. The light struck down, and body and mind bathed in hope. Immediately, making their hearts feel nice and warm, and very comfortable. Great, great! The Mother Goddess did not die, and our race hasn't become extinct. Everyone's faces were immersed in smiles of excitement. The bright smile added a different kind of beauty to the beautiful and attractive girls. Ahem! Xiaya lightly coughed, interrupting, well, now that you have found a way to resurrect the divine tree, I will take you to your new home. After that, Xiaya used instant transmission to bring everyone to the distant planet Yetala. Looking at them carefully planting the divine tree seed next to a spring, Xiaya knew that he should bid them farewell. Their meeting was an accident, but it was also fate. Xiaya saved them when Bofei planet was destroyed, but La Fulai obtained new life in the midst of despair. There were all sorts of reasons that cannot be described. Sir Xiaya, thank you very much. We will always remember you. La Fulai reluctantly bid farewell to Xiaya. Just short several months of living together have already left Xiaya's traces in her heart. She couldn't bear to part with Xiaya, but she also knows that Xiaya cannot stay. La Fulai would remember this friendship in the bottom of her heart, hoping that she could return the favor one day. Ha ha ha, I hope that your race can continue to live here safely. Xiaya looked at the pretty girl in front of him and wished her well in his heart. Then, he immediately left using instant transmission. Next, Xiaya still has to complete the mission given by King Kai. After completing the task and acquiring the final Super Dragon Ball, he will return to Universe 7. It has been a while since he left Xiling and others. Looking at Xiaya's departing direction, La Fulai's beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Then, with a determined look on her beautiful face, she turned around and led her people to start building a new home. She would always remember Xiaya in her heart. After Xiaya left planet Yetala, he soon appeared on a small, life planet. After which he took out the list given to him by King Kai and looked it over, before picking out a target from it. Jahi, ruler of planet Aldasi, battle power 240,000, I will choose it. Xiaya smiled indifferently. In the list that King Kai gave him, this Jahi was nothing much, but Xiaya plans to start with him first. An alien with only 240,000 battle power, was a piece of cake for him whose current battle power has reached 1.04 million. However, Xiaya who had suffered a loss knows that no matter how weak the other side is, being always careful is not wrong. What's more, this Jahi's strength was not low. Planet Aldasi was located in the western region of the North area. Since it came under Jahi's rule more than 100 years ago, planet Aldasi has always been the hegemon in the western region, and few planets can contend with it. But today, a powerful Saiyan descended on planet Aldasi. Time is infinite and fleeting. In the blink of an eye, more than 10 days have passed. Almost every other day, Xiaya will move from one planet to another. Soon, all the people on the list had been wiped out. The deaths of these strong experts give rise to significant waves in the nearby starfields, even creating a furor. However, due to the vast territory of the North area, nobody knew that there were so many evil people dying at the same time. Following Xiaya's assassination, the dark forces of the North area were immediately suppressed by the righteous forces. Those dark forces that were creating troubles had all gone into hiding. North area has obtained at least few decades of peace. Of course, Universe Commerce Alliance's business still has to be done. It wouldn't be abandoned because of the collapse of the trading center. However, because those evil elements who were harming the North area were all cut apart by Xiaya as if cutting garlic chives, Universe Commerce Alliance's agent in the North area, for a while, did not have any arrangement, thus stopping all activities. So, it started trading with the regular merchant groups. Only profits were not the usual exorbitant profits. After completing the mission, Xiaya had his wish fulfilled and received the small pot of Fountain of Youth from King Kai. After obtaining that deep blue pot filled with Fountain of Youth, Xiaya burst into hearty laughter and then carefully put it into the dimensional space. Drinking a mouthful of Fountain of Youth can extend a person's life by a few hundred years. This small jar was enough for 20 to 30 people when drunk a mouthful each. It was a pity that Universe 7's portion of Fountain of Youth has already been refined into Elixir of Immortality and was distributed. Who knows how many years it would take for it to be condensed next time, or else Xiaya would have tried and go to North Kai's place to obtain some. After obtaining the Fountain of Youth, Xiaya only has one objective for staying in the Universe 6, the 7th Super Dragon Ball. However, thinking of the super huge mysterious mystic altar that he caught a fleeting glimpse of, Xiaya knows that it would definitely not be easy to get the last Dragon Ball, and he was well prepared in his heart for a long-term struggle. Vados had mustered many people to create that mysterious thing. The difficulty level is hard to predict. Chapter 165, Tempering Altar. In a certain quiet and pitch-dark part of the universe, there was not even a little bit of starlight here. When Xiaya arrived here and looked at that mysterious and unfathomable ancient altar from far away, his body and mind were shocked. There were no stars in the surroundings. It was like an unknown tangible aura vigorously intertwined together, or like slowly flowing mercury was gathered together to form a star-size enclosure. Looking at it from the side, the whole space was composed of a strange topology, as if completely distorted in physical structure, the aura inside unable to be transmitted out. But it was strange that his line of sight was not affected, and he was still able to clearly see the scene inside. In the hazy and illusory vast space, he saw an enormous light purple-colored altar which has 5 levels, floating atop each other. The altar was so enormous that just the size of the base level was enough for thousands of Earth to be simultaneously placed together. While the altars above were successively smaller in size, but they were still huge. At the topmost point of altar, a dark orange crystal ball was enshrined. It was Super Dragon Ball. I hadn't felt anything when I was far away, but the nearer I get, the more I feel its imposingness. A shocked expression flashed across his face, and Xiaya couldn't help but sigh in his heart. After careful observation, he realized that various kinds of crooked characters and strange patterns were carved at the edge of each altar, seems to be the language of the ancient gods. Among them, Xiaya could read and understood 3 large gilded characters. Together, the 3 characters impressively were Tempering Altar. It's not that Xiaya could understand this writing, but these 3 large characters seemed to have some kind of special magic power, directly engraving them in his mind. It might have taken a lot of time just to build this altar. Vados really is idle and has nothing to do. Following which, Xiaya stopped muttering carelessly because he could see that everything here was odd. He even suspects that the moment he entered this area, everything happening here would completely fall into Vados' eyes. He who talks much errs much. It is better to talk less. Next, Xiaya slowly moved closer and entered the area covered by the altar. That mysterious tangible aura rolled over from the side and brushed past him, giving a cool feeling when it touched him, but he did not feel any discomfort. Moreover, he realized that air here was very pure. Xiaya nodded and quickly stepped onto the altar. Due to the incredibly large size of the altar, when Xiaya landed on it, it was as if an ant had climbed to the center of a football field. And even this analogy was not enough to describe it. Those strange characters and patterns that he had seen before have also been magnified by millions or several 100 million times that their original appearance couldn't even be seen. Dong! The sound of a copper gong rung in his heart. As soon as both of his feet stepped on the altar, a strange force field suddenly fell on his body. Xiaya exclaimed as he felt his body become unusually heavy. This force field's effect is around 300x gravity. He slightly grinned as he concluded. Is this the test arranged by Vados? 300x gravity was nothing to Xiaya and was only a little strenuous. This is still only the first level of the altar, and there are still 4 levels after this. What would be they have? Xiaya inwardly pondered, then began to look for the passageway leading to the 2nd level. But before he could take few steps, he felt an icy murderous aura coming from the side. Xiaya paused, his entire body on alert. SSSS, an ephemeral light that was thin like hair flashed past. Xiaya hurriedly jumped back a few steps, dodging the attack. With a putchy sound, his clothes were torn open. When he lowered his head to look down, not knowing when a tear had been opened on the training cloth on his body. So fast! The tear on the cloth was a clean cut as if it was caused by a knife blade. Xiaya's black pupils abruptly contracted, his heart feeling a chill, and the vigilance in his heart rose to the max because he hadn't seen how the other side had attacked. Looks like it's more than just a simple gravity test. What exactly did Vados put in here? Xiaya looked grim and maliciously guessed. He feels like he had entered a Colosseum of ancient Rome and was providing the spectators with entertainment. At this moment, another gleaming attack came, but this time Xiaya was prepared. His body was like a flash of lightning as it suddenly erupted with all of its imposing aura. Bang! A straight punch brazenly waved out, the splendor on his fist burst through the air with a slightly visible glimmer. With a light putchy sound, the air was broken by the mighty fist, forming a vacuum of nothingness. The excess power has no way to dissipate and gradually turned into innumerable ripples, spreading out in all directions. After standing still for around few seconds, Xiaya continued to observe the surroundings. Suddenly, he sensed space in front of him distort, and before long, a ferocious beast with strange appearance emerged from the space. Sharp fangs, sturdy scales, 2 wings growing behind its back, and bloody mouth continuously dripping with saliva. The 2 forelimbs of the strange beast were similar to blades, and they were drawn inwards, their surface gleaming with cold light. Its size was big like of a small mountain. As soon as it appeared, it bent down and erupted into a fierce and loud roar, as if to express its anger at the trespasser. Magic beast. Xiaya couldn't recognize what the creature was, but the restless aura emitting from its body made him somewhat uneasy. Roar. The magic beast had a mouth full of fangs as it angrily roared, and the wings behind it flapped as it pounced over. At this time, Xiaya suddenly moved, and instantly, many afterimages appeared. Although the more than 300x gravity had slowed down Xiaya's movements, his strong physique was not at all affected. Peng peng peng, the smacking of palms produced rough leathery sound, and the fight kicked off. With a swing of an arm, several energy waves emitting blue light flew towards the magic beast along with space-breaking sound. But, who knows what kind of species that magic beast was, its speed hadn't decreased even at 300x gravity, and it nimbly dodged the energy wave attacks. Shiu shiu shiu. The energy waves struck to the ground, and exploded, splashing thick sandstones which messily scattered in all directions. The fight quickly intensified. With a flash, Xiaya arrived above the magic beast, and towards the magic beast which hadn't reacted yet, sent out few energy waves. Do, the sound of hitting. The energy waves accurately hit the back of the magic beast, producing dull sounds. The energy waves swelled and exploded, turning into slowly rising fiery gaseous clouds. Under the attack of the energy beams, the skin and flesh at the back of the magic beast became severely mangled, emitting smell of scorched meat. Aooo! The magic beast roared in pain, but before Xiaya could get complacent, he sensed a gust of whistling sound pounce over. Looking closely, the long tail of that magic beast kept zooming in, and bang, he was slapped to the ground with a mighty slap. The strength of the slap was extremely strong. In an instant, Xiaya felt himself flying dozens of kilometers away. When he saw that his body was about to smash onto the ground. At the critical moment, he hurriedly launched an energy wave towards the ground, borrowing the rebounding force to stop his downward charge. His whole person was like hanging from a wire, and his body was like moving clouds and flowing water as his feet gently landed on the ground. Turning around, he saw the magic beast angrily glaring at him. Apparently, it regards Xiaya as an eyesore. The expression in its eyes became even more vicious, and it raised its head while giving a deafening roar. Once more, strange ripples appeared in the sky, then, dragging its mountain-like body, the magic beast nimbly rushed towards Xiaya. Good, come. A stern look flashed in Xiaya's eyes. Damn beast, you really think you are the overlord here? Bang! He sprang up with strong steps, the force under his feet propelling him while creating a huge crater. His attack towards the magic beast was at a speed that was difficult to discern with the naked eyes. One person, one beast, both sides coming and going, soon, they met in the air close to the ground. Xiaya changed his direction in the sky, both hands grabbing the beast's head, and swept past above its head by borrowing inertia. In an instant, a tremendous amount of impact force was transmitted through his arms, and the space-time secret skill immediately deflected 30% of the force, while the rest of the force via both of his legs, passed into the ground. Boom! The ground violently blew open, forcibly sinking several meters down. After he landed on the ground, the massive body of the magic beast also turned 180 degrees because of his tremendous force. With its head as the fulcrum, its thick body heavily slammed to the ground while facing upward, producing an even more violent sound. On the whole ground, a crater more than 10 meters deep and nearly 1 kilometer in diameter appeared. At this time, the magic beast was even more furious, and abruptly flinging its head back while roaring. Xiaya was thrown into the air, and then a giant tail once again attacked towards him. Bang! Good strength! Xiaya yelled, his arm somewhat feeling numb, and then he quickly break away from the battlefield to a safe location. This altar is full of mystery. Xiaya speculates that this altar should be used by Vados to train experts or is purely for game use. For example, this suddenly appearing magic beast seems to be a small monster guarding the game's checkpoint. Only by defeating it, one can continue advancing. Then, I can only defeat it. Xiaya grinned, laughing heartily. This beast's strength was much weaker than Bofiai's without body transformation. If not for the interference of the gravitational field, Xiaya would have already finished it off. However, 300x gravity was nothing much to Xiaya. As a Saiyan, after adapting for a period of time, he feels that he could already exhibit the majority of his strength. Hence, both of his eyes shone, and ignoring the enormous body of that magic beast, Xiaya soared high into the sky, turned around and attacked the beast. Boom, a loud sound of impact appeared, and his body flew backward due to the powerful repelling force. Xiaya somersaulted a dozen times in the sky before he spread out his hands to stabilize his body. After getting rid of the discomfort arising due to the impact, Xiaya became even more fierce the more he fought, and he once again began to attack the magic beast. The magic beast, which had gone crazy, opened its bloody mouth. The few sharp fangs exposed in the air were like a viper, gleaming with a cold light. Aoo! Seeing that Xiaya still dared to attack, it angrily roared. It spread out both of its less than 10 meters wide wings. A sharp whirlwind blew over. Xiaya's body gracefully turned into a beam of light, dodging left and right, and evading the magic beast's attacks. His body was getting closer and closer to the magic beast. Energy blast! Suddenly, a light blue energy wave was produced in Xiaya's hands before he threw it at the close magic beast. Chapter 166 to 3 million Battle Power. Rumble. The energy blast directly hit the body of the magic beast, and the compressed to the max energy exploded like a large-yield nuclear bomb exploding violently. Immediately, an earth-shattering crimson blaze rose. Aoo! With a painful and wretched howl, the magic beast tried to struggle, but in the end, it still died in Xiaya's hands. The dust floating upwards was pulled by the gravity and fell down. When his line of sight became clear, Xiaya closely observed the magic beast. The magic beast had turned into blackened pieces of meat in the massive explosion, and could not be distinguished with its original appearance. I have encountered an opponent like this just at the beginning. This is only the starting first level of the altar. The road ahead is still very long. Xiaya's expression congealed, and he thought while sighing. He couldn't figure out what Vados' intention is in putting the Super Dragon Ball above the altar, but one thing is certain, that it would definitely not be easy to obtain it. However, soon the worries in Xiaya's eyes were replaced by raging battle intent. If this vast and boundless tempering altar was really full of so many experts, it is tantamount to be an excellent place for him to train. Saiyan never lacks the will to fight, such that fighting is a Saiyan's natural hobby. Affected by this, Xiaya was also very eager to fight. Moreover, this is even more fun. It was somewhat similar to the method of Digi upgrades brave warriors in his previous life. Xiaya believes that he will become braver the more he fights. Sure enough, he hadn't walked for long before he met another opponent. Its head was similar to a black bull magic beast, and its ferocious-looking appearance was similar to a demon in myths. Moreover, its strength compared to the magic beast from just now was also slightly stronger. To deal with it, Xiaya had to spend even more effort. After killing the black bull magic beast, the third opponent quickly appeared. It was a giant beast like a dinosaur. Its huge claws stepped onto the ground, and immediately the sky shook, and earth trembled. Its energy was no less than Bofiai at his peak state, causing Xiaya to land in a bitter struggle. Of course, it would definitely not be so difficult for Xiaya to once again deal with Bofiai with his current strength. However, the problem is that there is also 300x gravity. Under the various restrictions, Xiaya can only exhibit 60% of his strength. Now again thinking back to his fight with Bofiai, Xiaya realized that under Vados' elaborate arrangement, he stormed into Bofiai Trading Center, which was really only an appetizer. This altar's challenge is the real banquet. The more I head towards the entrance of the second level of the altar, the stronger an opponent I would encounter. Xiaya was already exhausted when he defeated the third opponent. At this point, Xiaya knew that he could no longer blindly move forward. He has to restore his strength, and at the same time, he must also summarize his own deficiencies. He has to conduct serious research on how to attack, how to defend, and how to obtain the greatest offensive power at least strength. This research took precisely 7 days. Xiaya seems to have suddenly returned to the days, 8 or 9 years ago when he had received Korin and Mr. Popo's training on Earth. These days of sweating out have been worthwhile and meaningful. 7 days later, Xiaya once again set off. This time, he has made remarkable progress in both strength and skills, something that ordinarily he could not comprehend by training alone. It is said that fighting is the best training, and it is really not wrong that Saiyan's nature combined with Earthling's training experiences makes the potential unleashed in a fight incomparable. No wonder that in the original work, Son Goku's progress has been slow in the 5 years after he had participated in the 23rd World Martial Arts Tournament. While, after Saiyan Saga and Planet Namek Saga, his strength seems to skyrocket, and in just a few days he arrived at Planet Namek, his strength entirely changed. This, of course, was because there was a need to change the original work's storyline. At the same time, it was also the result of the double effects of pressure and fighting. Xiaya's progress is certainly not as exaggerated as Son Goku's, but it can also be described with progressing quickly and advancing by leaps and bounds. A month later, Xiaya finally arrived at the entrance of the altar's second level. At this time, his battle power had already increased from more than 1 million to 1.27 million battle power. Even he himself doesn't dare to believe at his progress speed. But thinking of the magic beasts dying in his hands, he suddenly understood. As soon as he stepped into the second level, a more powerful gravity fell on his body, and he was caught off guard as if he was hit in the head by a stick. 380x gravity. Xiaya chuckled. The difficulty level of the second level was really not what he had expected. It was a lot higher than the first level. I just don't know what the opponents are like and whether or not they can bring him bigger breakthroughs. Xiaya was looking forward to it. Such days of fighting and blood boiling continued. Soon, it has been 5 months since Xiaya had entered the tempering altar. He has already arrived at the 4th level and will soon reach the 5th level. Wang wang wang. The air made keening sounds. Right now, Xiaya was facing a purple thunder dragon. The thunder dragon's entire body was covered in layers of beautiful purple scales, flickering like a dazzling crystal. Its bucket-thick body had innumerable sinister and frightening deep blue electric arcs winding around it. Those electric arcs were extremely frightening, and even from far away made people's scalp tingle. Huo! Using ki to form a huge shield around him. Come on, let me see how powerful is your thunder and lightning. Boldly shouting towards the huge dragon surrounded by thunder. Xiaya's words contained strong self-confidence. Aoo, the purple dragon was enraged, and its huge body immediately glittered with bright blue lights, and an intimidating, frightening aura rushed over. Space was fiercely distorted, and purple-black twisted electric rays kept extending out. This scene was as if it will devour the world. Space-time breaking punch. Facing such an enemy, Xiaya didn't dare to be careless. He immediately used his strongest move and moved forward. The icy blue electric rays immediately entwined with Thunder Dragon's purple-black thunder. As if it was an upright soaring ice dragon, it began to fight against the purple dragon. Bang! Bang! Rumble! Boundless electric rays and Thunder Dragon collided, erupting into a deafening sound. Following a loud shout, Xiaya increased the energy output, and the deep blue rays were suddenly invigorated. In an instant, the purple electric rays were pushed down. Roar! After a despairing scream, the thunder and lightning dragon was drowned amidst chaotic energy attacks, squeezing and tearing, various kinds of destructive forces simultaneously erupted. In a split second, space and time seemed to have frozen. Hwalalala! With a loud tearing noise, space was distorted open. It was as if the fireworks were about to burn out and had erupted with the last touch of brilliance. The loud sound formed shock waves that could be seen with the naked eyes as they kept ricocheting around in all directions. Space boiled, and after a long time, the chaotic aura gradually subsided. There were no longer sounds of thunder appearing in the space. Xiaya broke through the last magic beast of the altar's 4th level and was about to enter the final level. At last, the final step. And, my battle power has also broken through to 3 million. Xiaya sat on the ground while gasping for breath. However, a smile of satisfaction hung on his face. He was just 16 years old this day. Of course, it was definitely not comparable to Son Goku, whose battle power had directly risen from 90,000 to 3 million after sustaining injuries. However, Xiaya wins at one step at a time, and training little by little. He is confident that he would not lose to anyone towards energy and strength control. Distant god of destruction's territory. Vados's graceful body was traveling through the void, and checking out the orbiting state of the various planets in god of destruction's territory, and to again establish their trajectories and prevent their collision with god of destruction's planet. After finishing with these things, she found that the crystal ball above the scepter in her hand was flickering. Oh, that Universe 7 human has finished the challenge tempering altar. He only took around 5 months. Saiyan's constitution is really incredible. Vados smiled as the breeze swayed her beautiful silver grey hair. In that case, even if I let him take away those several wishing beads, and Kompasama finds out, he will certainly have nothing to say. Smiling prettily, Vados lightly squeezed the scepter in her hand and gently tapped it several times down in the void, and concentric ripples immediately undulate out in the space. Soon afterward, a colorful and gorgeous brilliance rose into the sky, and Vados personally went to the mortal world. Chapter 167, Vados appears. This is the 5th level of the tempering altar. When Xiaya passed through the bridge between the 4th and 5th level, and set foot on the last level of the tempering altar, he sighed in his heart. Unlike the previous levels, the 5th level of the tempering altar was not only smaller than the size of the former levels, but it was also empty, with nothing in it. As far as his eyes could see, the vast and never-ending area doesn't have even a single thing. Smooth as if it was leveled with a blade. Looking up, he could see a huge dark orange crystal planet floating high up in the air, about 10,000 kilometers above the ground. Its huge size brings a kind of spiritual oppression on people. The last Super Dragon Ball is already in sight. As long as I can get it, I can summon the Super Shenron. Xiaya's black eyes shone with excitement. A shadow swayed, and left behind an afterimage in its place. Like a flash of lightning, his body flew towards the Super Dragon Ball. There was still some distance between Super Dragon Ball and the highest point of the altar, but at Xiaya's speed, it was only a matter of seconds. Thump, there was a buzzing sound. His body rebounded as if colliding with something. The rebound was very gentle. It didn't appear to be a hard obstruction, and thus did not cause any harm to Xiaya. Oh, it seems that something is wrapped around the Super Dragon Ball. Flying around the Super Dragon Ball, he discovered a layer of transparent membrane around the Super Dragon Ball. If he can't get rid of this membrane, he can't obtain the Super Dragon Ball. Finally, I have reached the end. How can I let all my previous efforts go to waste? Let's see if I can blast it open. Xiaya pondered before nodding his head. Immediately, he used the energy wave, intending to blast it open. Boom! A bright energy wave streaked across the sky, bombarding towards the surface of the Super Dragon Ball, but it was suddenly destroyed a few meters away from the Super Dragon Ball as if it had struck an impenetrable iron plate. The energy wave transformed into chaotic energy, and dispersed in all directions before disappearing into nothingness in the blink of an eye. But the membrane held firm. Upon seeing this, Xiaya slightly pursued his eyebrows, and then increased the energy output before once again bombarding towards the Super Dragon Ball. Rumble, the energy wave hit the membrane, and the vast and majestic energy was once again destroyed before disappearing while the Super Dragon Ball didn't even move an inch. This is somewhat difficult. The surface of the Super Dragon Ball is wrapped in a layer of a special substance. If I can't break it, I can't get the Super Dragon Ball. Xiaya's complexion sank. He has already used 70% of his strength just now, but the result was still no good. This is obviously the final checkpoint of the test that Vados set up. Before, if it was a test of tempering his strength, then this is a test of his abilities. He cannot crack it solely by relying on brute force. Xiaya sat down cross-legged and inwardly pondered on how to crack the film. If brute force cannot be used, what other methods can he use to get the Super Dragon Ball? Vados enshrined the Super Dragon Ball here. It's impossible that it is just to tease him. There must be some way to take it away. Xiaya pondered, if Vados placed the Super Dragon Ball here, then there must be a way to take it away. But how? If it was Vados herself, what method would she use? Xiaya reversed his thinking. At times, it is essential to change your train of thought. He pondered from Vados' perspective, how did she transfer the Super Dragon Ball here, then it can be taken away by using the same way. Suddenly, a bright light flashed in his brain, like a thunderbolt in the clear sky, and instantly Xiaya's thoughts became clear. It was like drinking a bottle of chilled cold drink in the dog days, his entire body covered in coolness. Note, dog days, the hottest period of the year. Space-time ability. Xiaya suddenly realized. Vados had clearly used space-time ability to shift the Super Dragon Ball. And this membrane blocking him from taking away the Super Dragon Ball is quite possibly formed from space-time ability. In an instant, Xiaya's eyes shone with a bright light. Lightly placing his hands on the membrane that was only a few meters away from the Super Dragon Ball, he could clearly feel a layer of smooth, glass-like substance, cool and somewhat elastic. Sure enough, it is formed of space-time ability. From the soft membrane's surface, he felt the traces of space-time ability. Xiaya let out a long sigh of relief, and then a confident smile emerged on his handsome face. As long as he knows the fundamental principle, then the rest is easier to handle. After taking a deep breath, Xiaya maneuvered the space-time ability within his body. For a moment, a huge amount of energy was stirred up like surging waves. Zi, silvery grey space-time energy gushed out from his fingers and soon began to fuse with the space-time ability wrapped around the surface of the Super Dragon Ball. Suddenly, calm and dignified, yet earth-shaking energy spread out along the surface of the Super Dragon Ball. Hoo! The surface of the Super Dragon Ball began to turn blurry, and line of sight became distorted due to space-time turbulence. The membrane formed by space-time ability seemed to melt like ice and snow. Immediately, circles of invisible space-time ripples surged out, then, with a kika sound like of a glass breaking, or suddenly throwing a bomb in a calm lake and setting off huge monstrous waves, making the surface of the lake churn and overlap. Space and time were in disorder. The transparent space-time membrane suddenly exploded open and the sealed space-time was torn open amidst the chaos. The numerous glittering and crystal-clear space-time fragments were like beautiful petals falling down when a spring breeze blew through oriental cherry trees. Without the support of space-time ability, the extraordinary super-strong gravity in the fifth level of the tempering altar acted on the Super Dragon Ball. Boom! The huge Dragon Ball was as if it was subjected to huge gravitational pull coming from the center of a black hole. It quickly fell down and smashed on the altar's surface, but there were no traces of the collision. Instead, because of the counterforce, it again sprang up. And, this moving back and forth produced a beautiful sound of the crystal ball hitting the ground. When the Super Dragon Ball stabilized, Xiaya's face finally revealed a smile from the bottom of his heart while stroking the smooth-colored glass material of the surface of the Dragon Ball. Finally, I have gotten all the Super Dragon Balls. The 3 Dragon Balls of the Universe 6 were really not easy to find. Sighing with emotion, Xiaya prepared to move the Super Dragon Ball. At this time, pa, the sound of applause sounded. Raising his head, he saw a young girl dressed in a green divine robe while her silvery grey hair fluttered, suspended in the sky of the altar. Around the girl's neck, a blue ring of light was floating, and her beautiful silvery grey hair were tied into a high-rise ponytail. At this moment, she was suspended in midair as if she was on flat ground, and was clapping towards Xiaya. Vados! Xiaya was stunned, and his heart skipped half a bit, looking very astonished. Oh, kid from the Universe 7, you seem to be very shocked seeing me. He, rest assured, I will keep my word. Since you've found the wishing beads with your own strength, I'll give them to you. Vados, holding the scepter, slowly floated to the front of Xiaya. Hearing Vados's words, Xiaya's tense heart was relieved. What he fears most is that Vados took action against him because of his identity as Universe 7's human. Entering Universe 6 without permission and being discovered by the highest god of Universe 6. What an embarrassment! However, looking at the current situation, it seems Vados does not really care about his identity. Thank you, madam. Xiaya quickly thanked. Vados smiled and said, well, it's rare to see a human who has space-time ability, and is also a Saiyan. I couldn't help but become somewhat interested. But, young man, you're really impressive, in just a few months' time, you have become so much stronger. Xiaya suddenly showed a dumbfounded expression. I did not expect that in front of Vados, he was like a doll that had been stripped naked. Bare, without any secret at all. Meeting face to face first time, and all of his ins and outs were completely exposed. However, I want to remind you that space-time ability is an exceptional ability. If used improperly, it will create space-time disorder, leading to a huge disaster. You must bear it in mind. Vados's pretty face looked solemn. Time and space are the most mysterious forces in the universe. Facing time and space, every living being should hold the most sincere respect. And changing timeline is a forbidden act. Because if the timeline is altered recklessly, in a less severe case, it could produce another parallel universe, and in a more severe case, it may cause the entire universe to disappear. Therefore, people have to pay extra attention. Your potential is quite good. If you were to train earnestly, perhaps you can reach a higher level. Keep in mind, realms and strength are the fundamentals, and you shouldn't rely too much on abilities. Although they are convenient, it is easy for people to become dependent on them. Vados continued, otherwise, in the future awaiting for you. Ah, forget it, you understand what I just said. Yes. Xiaya hurriedly nodded. He had also vaguely perceived this point. Whenever there is a breakthrough in his strength, his ability will correspondingly also increase, but conversely, every time his ability becomes stronger, the energy within his body does not increase. He has already come to a realization of this major and minor point. Now getting Vados' confirmation, Xiaya could balance inside his mind, and knows what to choose. Chapter 168, Super Shenron. Young man, since you have run over to Universe 6 for collecting the wishing beads manufactured by Dragon God Zalama, it means that you have already collected the several wishing beads in the Universe 7. Then, I'll do a good deed and help you in sending these wishing beads to Universe 7. And it just happens that I also want to see the power of the wishing beads. Vados said coldly. Really? Hearing that Vados was willing to help him send the Super Dragon Balls to Universe 7, Xiaya was somewhat surprised, but then he couldn't help but become delighted. He was worried about how to move these Super Dragon Balls back. Since Vados was willing to help, it couldn't possibly be better. As for whether Vados will steal his Super Dragon Balls or not, Xiaya wasn't worried at all because he knows that Angel Race was completely neutral and will not become greedy because of the Super Dragon Balls. Just like when God of Destruction Beerus and Whis in the original work obtained the Super Dragon Balls. Their vision was high and didn't put Super Dragon Balls in their eyes at all. This pure and simple thinking also makes people kneel down in worship. Immediately, Xiaya remembered something and spoke to Vados. Miss. Call me Vados. Vados spoke indifferently. Miss Vados, can you help me move the wishing beads here from Universe 7, I want to summon Super Shenron here. To make Vados understand, Xiaya also called the Super Dragon Ball as wishing beads. The reason why he asked Vados to move the Super Dragon Balls to Universe 6, firstly it is that when he would summon Super Shenron, its aura might alarm Universe 7's Whis and slumbering God of Destruction Beerus, and secondly, Xiaya thought of Lofuli and others. They still have a lot of people scattered to different parts of the universe. If he stays in Universe 6, after making a wish with Super Dragon Balls, maybe he can also help them. You want to use the wishing beads in Universe 6? Vados glanced at him with a surprised look. Unexpectedly, this Saiyan youngster's heart is quite big, he actually wants to use the wishing beads in the enemy lair. Yes, said Xiaya. In that case, come and stand by my side. I will take you back to Universe 7 to get those several wishing beads. Vados waved the scepter in her hand, and a slight breeze brushed past the lower hem of her robe making clear rustling sounds. Xiaya answered, and then he stepped forward, coming to Vados' side and put his hand on her shoulder. A whiff of fresh and delicate fragrance assaulted his nostrils. Xiaya raised his eyebrows and quickly turned his face to the other side. Vados calmly glanced at Xiaya and slightly nodded. Then, she tapped the scepter in her hand down twice in the void. Immediately, colorful lights hurriedly soared into the sky. The brilliant colors were dazzling like fireworks, instantly bringing Vados and Xiaya towards Universe 7. Inside a passageway formed by colorful lights, various kinds of sparkling and translucent colors flashed, unable to see forward or backward. It was exactly like the space-time wormholes in science fiction novels which connects two extremely faraway places. Only Vados' traveling method was even more outrageous, directly crossing between two universes. Shoo! A few minutes later, the colorful lights suddenly disappeared, and the surroundings turned into deep and quiet, dark space. In the distance, a blazing star was burning and raging, continuously emitting brilliant rays and heat to the surroundings. Xiaya and Vados were suspended in the space. Who knows what magic Vados used, even though he was in the vacuum of the universe, Xiaya could still breathe clean air. Where did you place those wishing beads after finding them? Vados asked. Hold on, El will look. Xiaya sensed and Universe 7's star chart appeared in his mind and then he looked up for the 4 Super Dragon Balls that he had hidden away. To prevent someone from finding the 4 Super Dragon Balls when he was not here, Xiaya hid the 4 Super Dragon Balls far away from all the galaxies in the middle of darkness. Miss Vados, I will then use instant transmission, said Xiaya. In moving aspect, Vedos's teleport method can disregard space and material, and even transporting a giant planet is a piece of cake, but it takes too much time, while Xiaya's instant transmission was somewhat superior in this aspect. Okay. Vedos lightly smiled and nodded, her beautiful eyes revealing curiosity. Upon seeing her showing a wisp of a smile, Xiaya suddenly felt that Vedos was not so difficult to get along with. Then, he closed his eyes and launched instant transmission. Whoosh! Xiaya and Vedos appeared where he had hidden the Super Dragon Balls. There were no stars here, and Milky Way Galaxy and other galaxies were extremely far away from here. This was the most spacious place in the Universe 7. In the dark and empty space, only 4 giant Super Dragon Balls were glowing with faint orange lights, shimmering and shining, rhythmically flickering. So these are Universe 7's wishing beads. Then, I'll take care of it next. Vedos's cold voice sounded. Then, she waved the scepter in her hand, and the 4 Super Dragon Balls hovering motionlessly in the distance suddenly moved, as if someone had used invisible hands to push them from behind, slowly moving. Then with a swish, colorful rays of light swiftly spread out and instantly drowned the 4 Super Dragon Balls. Let's go! An indifferent voice sounded. Vedos easily crossed the barrier between the universes and once again returned to Universe 6 with Xiaya. Then under Xiaya's directions, the 7 Super Dragon Balls were finally gathered together. At this time, the 7 giant Dragon Balls were lined up together in the vast expanse of space, presenting a magnificent sight. Buzz buzz buzz! Gathered together, the 7 Super Dragon Balls immediately were as if they were being pulled. The frequency of light rays flickering became more and more frequent. Every time they flickered, they gave off light roaring sounds similar to Shenron's. Begin! Vedos retreated to the side, and looked on from far away with the help of her scepter, her delicate face revealing a hint of curiosity. Xiaya nodded and took a deep breath, then shouted loudly in divine language. Come forth, divine dragon! Vedos in the distance, at this time, glanced at him in astonishment. This Saiyan youngster has already given her numerous surprises since the beginning. Unexpectedly, he even knows the divine language of the gods. As Xiaya's voice fell, the 7 Super Dragon's ball turned silent, and the golden flashes also didn't appear anymore. This was the final calm before Shenron appears. It's like how it would take a long time for a storm to brew. After a long period of silence, several thundering sounds appeared in the universe. As if they were the claps of thunder that have come from the ancient beginning of times. Boundless sacred aura instantly pervaded the countless galaxies. The Super Dragon Balls, which were as big as a planet, shone with golden radiance. Moreover, they grew more and more, bigger and brighter, and soon they burst into infinite brilliance like a star. A bolt of golden lightning came out from between the Super Dragon Balls, turned around and suffused the outer space. Immediately, the whole universe seemed to change colors. It was a vast, sacred, and an extremely magnificent scene. Golden magical clouds spread out throughout the galaxies, and all the stars were immersed in a golden sea. Roar! The 7 Super Dragon Balls suddenly emitted a huge amount of golden lights. Golden light soared serpentinely towards the depths of the universe. A loud dragon roar resounded throughout the universe. Xiaya knew that Shenron is about to appear. Rumble! Rumble! Super Shenron's golden body appeared. It was a divine dragon with 2 wings. It has a slender figure and sturdy physique like of a winged dragon in ancient myth. After Super Shenron appeared, its body began to enlarge rapidly. From star size, it started to expand, and soon, even its crimson eyes were as large as stars, and then it continued to grow. Opening both wings, it turned into the size of a galaxy and later continued to expand. Its appearing scene is really imposing. Seeing this scene, Xiaya's voice was somewhat quivering. Super Shenron's size was too monstrous. Roar! A dragon roar intimidating the universe sounded. Super Shenron suddenly opened its heaven-swallowing enormous mouth, and swallowed the huge galaxy where Xiaya and Vedos were in, and then continued to expand until each of its scales grew to the size of a galaxy. The complete form of Super Shenron finally appeared. At this time, the whole Universe 6 seemed to become Super Shenron's swimming pool to swim around as much as it liked. Numerous helix-shaped galaxies whose size was comparable to the scales on Super Shenron's body floated around it like dust. Super Shenron's size was too shocking. Chapter 169, Making a Wish. After Xiaya and Vedos were swallowed by Shenron's heaven-swallowing mouth, they arrived inside Super Shenron's body. Here, both space and dimensions have lost their meaning. Carefully seizing everything up, what entered their eyes were magnificent and brightly colored scenes filled with dreamy colors, and a golden ocean flowing under the feet. The galaxy that was swallowed by Super Shenron also seems to have shrunk by many times. Each and every planet was like glass marbles that people have played with in their childhood. They can be pushed away with just a light touch. Just when Xiaya was immersed in the incredibly unique feeling, the aura-emitting divine radiance suddenly converged together and turned into golden Super Shenron. Although it can't be compared with the size of the main body outside, it was still incomparably huge. Roar! Super Shenron loudly roared and lowered its enormous head, both of its scarlet eyes looking down. It was like a god looking down upon the masses, full of oppression. Human, speak thy wish. The booming voice of the golden Shenron was deafening. Xiaya took a deep breath to calm down before saying in the divine language, Great Super Shenron, please grant me the ability to make Dragon Balls. Finished speaking, he quietly waited for Super Shenron's response, while Vados standing to the side with the scepter in her hands like a bystander, only glanced at him with bright eyes, saying nothing. Planet name X Shenron Porunga had said that if mortals want to get the ability to create Dragon Balls, there are only two ways. First is to obtain Dragon God Zalama's permission, and get the ability granted by the Dragon God, just like the ancient name Kians, and second is to collect the 7 Super Dragon Balls scattered in the Universe 6 and Universe 7, and make a wish to Super Shenron. There seems to have a rule in the Dragon Ball world, the bigger the Dragon Ball, the stronger Shenron's power will be. Hence, Xiaya knows that Super Shenron should be able to fulfill his wish. Sure enough, after a short period of silence, Golden Super Shenron opened its huge mouth and said, This wish is very easy. Buzz! Super Shenron's big dragon eyes suddenly flashed with a crimson light. As the crimson light shone, Xiaya's spirit abruptly shook as if an icy aura had gushed into his body. He quickly closed his eyes and focused, assimilating the coming cold feeling. After a while, Xiaya opened his eyes. At this time, an entirely new ability has flowed into his body. At the same time, lot of details about how to create the Dragon Balls appeared in his mind. Just as if it was an innate ability. Super Shenron's ability was much stronger than Porunga and Earth Shenron. This kind of wish to alter the constitution can be easily fulfilled. Human, thy wish has been granted. Super Shenron's voice again resounded. Like a machine executing a programmed procedure, after finishing speaking its programmed words, it suddenly turned into sparkling and translucent lights, and like an illusion disappeared in front of Xiaya's eyes. Voila! The dazzling golden space collapsed with a loud rumble and all the galaxies returned to their original position as if all along they hadn't been swallowed by Shenron. The 7 giant Super Dragon Balls floated in the quiet universe before they quickly dispersed and flew away in different directions. 3 of the 7 passed through the universe barrier to Universe 7, while the other 4 remained in Universe 6. Looking at the 7 glittering and crystal clear Super Dragon Balls scatter after completing their mission, Xiaya recalled everything that had happened when collecting the Super Dragon Balls, especially the fight at Bofei Trading Center and Tempering Altars test, and smiled with satisfaction. They were really precious memories. Youngster, since your wish has been fulfilled, leave Universe 6 as soon as possible. Staying in other universes for a long time is not a good thing for gods who maintains order. At this time, Vados, who had one hand behind her back, slowly floated over to Xiaya's side. Yes, Miss Vados, I will leave as soon as possible. Xiaya nodded, agreeing. Vados leisurely glanced at the vast and endless universe and says, in this universe, a crisis may break out at any time. But many times when the crisis breaks out, we couldn't deal with it in time. So, Dragon God Zalama would bestow the wishing beads which have the power to create miracles. I hope you would use this power properly. After speaking and not waiting for Xiaya to respond, Vados glanced at him with a profound meaning, and then disappeared, turning into glimmering lights, and returning to God of Destruction's planet. Xiaya was stunned for a while and looked at the place where she had disappeared, carefully pondering over the meaning of Vados' words. There are indeed too many unexpected events in the universe, and sometimes even existences such as God of Destruction will suffer a disaster when a crisis breaks out. Of course, it's not to say that God of Destruction's strength is not enough. To be honest, there are basically only a few people in the universe that are God of Destruction's opponent. However, because of the special link between God of Destruction and Supreme Kai, there are times when God of Destruction could disappear due to Supreme Kai's death if they don't have the time to intervene and fulfill their role. Regarding the procedure of how a God of Destruction is born, there is no need to go into unnecessary details here. Although the probability of such an exceptional thing to happen is minuscule, it is not impossible. Moreover, many times, chaos can occur in the universe's functioning itself, and chaotic order can produce a lot of dark forces. Eliminating such negative energy by only relying on God of Destruction and Supreme Kai is quite difficult. Unless someone like Zeno directly reset or erase the entire universe. However, such a price is too high. So, Dragon God Zalama gave the miraculous power, and Dragon Balls are the items used for protection and creating miracles. Using the power of Dragon Balls to wipe out those negative energies, relatively speaking, the price is much lighter. But the existence of Dragon Balls in itself does not conform with the laws of order. Even though Shenron has to abide by certain natural laws when fulfilling a wish, but causing miracles in itself belongs to unnatural and more or less causes some damage to the universe and even order. Just like when resurrecting dead people. From a natural point of view, it is impossible for the dead to be revived, but the Dragon Balls can. As long as it is not a natural death that is in accordance with the most basic order of the universe, it can be reversed by the power of Dragon Balls, distorting Underworld's order to a certain degree. So you need Super Dragon Balls and even Dragon God itself to control it. What is there to be so concerned about? After I've created the Dragon Balls, can't I just use them less? Right, I still have to first create the Dragon Balls. Xiaya doesn't care about so many complicated things. Anyway, he is creating Dragon Balls just to provide a convenience to himself and others, and will not use it often. Shua, a light flashed, Xiaya launched instant transmission and disappeared from the space, appearing a few seconds later in the faraway eastern part of the north area. Planet Yetala. The early morning rain and dew, bathed in the light of the morning sun, disappeared little by little. After passing through the dense mist in the forest, the light rays shone on the land while reflecting bright and gorgeous colors midway. At the dawn of a new day, pretty girls with alluring figures stepped out of their rooms and traveled back and forth in nature's embrace. They held clay pots and banana leaves to collect the gifts from nature. Soon the clay pots and banana leaves were filled with clear mountain water and various wild fruits. Between the green leaves of the forest, the thin silk-like light mist gradually dissipated, and the girls, while happily laughing and talking, left. More than 6 months have already passed since they were rescued by Xiaya and brought to this planet. Time is the best healing medicine. The grief of the past has gradually dissipated along with the passage of time, and especially seeing the enormous mother goddess tree that has grown to a height of several tens of meters, a peaceful feeling comes deep from their heart. Voila! Sparkling lights dispersed, and a figure appeared in front of these girls. It's Sir Xiaya, you have come back, a young girl cried out in surprise as she looked at the person who had appeared before her. Sir Xiaya has really come back. Great, Princess Lafulai will surely be very happy. Voices filled with laughter rang in his ears. Xiaya looked at the young girls who were gorgeously dressed and brimming with youthfulness, and his mood suddenly became happy. He laughed and said, "Take me to see Lafulai. I have come over because I have a method to rescue all of your sisters." Really? The girls trembled with excitement, their fair cheeks turning bright red. Soon, after hearing the news, Lafulai, dressed in an emerald green dress, rushed over, and seeing Xiaya, she ran over with excitement. Chapter 170, Crystal Dragon Balls. Sir Xiaya, welcome back. Lafulai raised the corners of her mouth in a smile and said. Xiaya calmly nodded and looked at the girl in front of him. I will stay here and make preparations for a few days, after that, I will have a way to help you rescue all your sisters. Before creating the Dragon Balls, he needs to prepare well. Thank you, Sir Xiaya, we really appreciate your help. Lafulai's voice couldn't help but choke with emotion as she was touched that Xiaya still remembered her sisters who were scattered outside and suffering. He not only helped them find a new home, but also remembered to help them in saving their sisters. Xiaya waved his hand, saying, "Prepare a room for me first. Oh, by the way, also get me some wood and clay." He remembered that before creating the Dragon Balls, he had to first prepare Shenron's model. Earth Shenron was created by Mr. Popo using clay, and Planet Namex Shenron was also similarly made. After getting the ability to create Dragon Balls, he knows that it is indeed a necessary preparation. First, carve a model as it will be the carrier that will bear Shenron's power in future. Wood? Clay? Lafulai was perplexed, but she still cleverly nodded and have someone prepare these materials. Before long, all the materials were ready. In a beautiful room, Xiaya had his eyes closed, pondering. To the side, Lafulai propped up her chin and quietly leaned on the table. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared at Xiaya while lost in thought. Who knows what she was thinking about? First prepare Shenren's model. Xiaya imagined Shenren's appearance in his mind, and immediately picked up a lump of soft clay to start. He wants to make a 5-clawed golden dragon, as it should be the most beautiful of all dragons. But, even after trying many times, Shenren made from clay was not right. It was not like a divine dragon, but more like a python and earthworm. After several failures, Xiaya put down the work in his hands. It seems that I don't have a talent for making clay figurines. The 5-clawed golden dragon has to be sacred and noble. Shenren would be seen by people in future. Then, how could I dare to take it out when it has such an ugly appearance? Thinking of this, Xiaya gave up on the idea of using clay to make Shenren, and picked up a block of wood to carve. Really, even though he has not much talent in creating clay figurines, he could carve quite decently. Sparkling and translucent bright lights vibrated between his fingers. With every vibration, there would be tiny wood shavings falling down. Soon, the prototype of Shenren had taken form, and then it was finally carved. After 1 hour, a mighty and sacred 5-clawed golden dragon, emitting incomparably noble aura was formed. After that, he picked up another piece of wood and continued to carve. Its appearance becoming more and more lifelike. Sir Xiaya, what is this creature you have carved? It looks so noble. La Fulai asked in a delicate voice. He felt comfortable as it was transmitted into his ears. This is a 5-clawed golden dragon. Unfortunately, the material of the woods is not good enough to embody the mighty and majestic feeling of a 5-clawed golden dragon. Xiaya stopped his hands and said with a sigh. The materials that are used to create Shenren naturally has to be as good as possible, so that they can withstand even more strong power. After the Dragon Balls are made, they can display miraculous powers to destroy the negative energy in the universe, but they need a bridge, just like the snake path connecting Underworld and Kai's planet in the higher dimension. The better the material is, the more strong powers it can withstand. Dragon Ball's power is limited by the 2 factors, materials used for creating them and the creator's ability. After use, Dragon Balls had to go through a certain period of adjustment. During this time, Dragon Balls will turn into stone, and after they have absorbed enough energy, they will again turn back into Dragon Ball. The adjustment period for Planet Namex Dragon Balls is 130 days. After 130 days, the 3 wishes can again be fulfilled. The adjustment period of Earth's Dragon Balls is 1 year, after which, 1 wish can be fulfilled. However, the creator is also very important. Later in the original work, Namekian Dende was from the outstanding Dragon clan. So, Dragon Balls created by him could fulfill 2 wishes at once, and he can resurrect much more people at the same time. Xiaya's ability to create Dragon Balls was bestowed by Super Shenren and is second only to Dragon God Zalama's, and was much better than Dende's who had inherited it from the bloodline. Therefore, if Xiaya is given enough good materials, he has the confidence to create much better Dragon Balls. Sir Xiaya, wait a minute, I will go and prepare better materials for you. La Fulai stared at Xiaya and as if making up her mind, rushed out of the house. Soon, La Fulai came back while panting, holding a chunk of emerald green wood with a diameter of 50 centimeters. Under the bright rays of light, flowing radiance can be seen on top flickering like stars. This is, Xiaya looked at it with astonishment. From this small chunk of wood, he could feel an exceptional life aura. This is a piece of divine wood from Mother Goddess Divine Tree. We cut it off with Mother Goddess consent. La Fulai gave a knowing smile. Her smile was like 100 flowers in bloom, having infinite temptations. Your Mother Goddess has already grown so big. Xiaya was somewhat surprised. He remembered that seed of the divine tree was planted just about half a year ago. It has already grown so big? Mother Goddess growth is very fast, and now it is dozens of meters high. La Fulai was somewhat proud as she spoke. Xiaya nodded and took the piece of divine wood from La Fulai's hand. Give my thanks to your Mother Goddess. With this divine wood, I can create a much better Shenren. Then, he began to wield a glistening knife blade, carving the emerald green divine wood little by little. 3 hours later, an emerald green lifelike 5-clawed golden dragon was completed. It has rabbit eyes, deer horns, cow's mouth, camel's head, and a belly like a clam. Looking noble and sacred, it was as if it wants to soar into the sky. Its every scale was full of vitality, and huge dragon eyes revealed shocking majesty. Such a beautiful divine dragon! La Fulai said, shocked. Laughing, he picked up a glass cover and placed the Shenron carved from divine wood inside. Next, he is going to breathe life into Shenron. Come, let's go outside. Now, I will let you witness a miracle. Smiling, the corners of Xiaya's mouth slightly rose, and holding the glass cover with the 5-clawed golden dragon in it, he went to the square outside. La Fulai also followed with a curious look on her pretty face. Soon, all the beautiful and lovely young girls had gathered on the large and flat square. High-spirited, all of them looked at Xiaya and La Fulai in the square with curious look on their faces. Placing the 5-clawed golden dragon at the center of the square, Xiaya stepped back by a distance of 4 or 5 meters. Under the sunlight, the emerald green Shenron glimmered with sparkling lusters, like a dazzling beautiful jade. Now, the next step is to breathe life into Shenron, but before that, I have to first set the incantation to summon Shenron. Xiaya's thoughts turned, he already has an idea in his heart. It was not surprising that Shenron's summoning incantation is "Come forth, Shenron." These few words were also used for Earth and Planet Namex Dragon Balls. Even if another alien language is used, as long as that race's everyday used other words are known. Then, using a language translation device, incantations can also be translated. Divine language is relatively safe, but there are still many people who know it. Thus, Xiaya does not intend to use it. So he was planning to use a language that Dragon Ball world does not have. So even if someone gets the Dragon Balls that he created, there would be no way to summon Shenron. Xiaya brought 2 of his fingers together, and vertically placed them between his eyebrows. The peculiar ability given to him by Super Shenron was triggered. PFFF, sparkling electric rays flashed between his fingers, like several vibrating cords, looking particularly enchanting. As more and more energy gathered, the bright white electric rays became more and more dazzling. The dazzling lights forced La Fulai and other girls to close their eyes. Go! With a low roar, the light rays containing miraculous power went toward Shenron's sculpture at the center of the square. Voila! The light rays suddenly shook. A new sun has risen on the ground, suddenly surpassing the radiance of the blazing sun. Boom! With deafening dull reverberations, a beam of energy went straight into the sky and then split into 7, as if ready to fly into outer space at any moment. Dragon Balls created by Xiaya were so powerful that a trivial planet wasn't able to restrict them. In future, after fulfilling the wish, they will disperse into the universe. The range is probably the size of a galaxy. If I let you fly away, wouldn't the time I had spent be in vain? The corners of Xiaya's mouth were slightly curved. 7 illusory after-images suddenly appeared, before turning into 7 arcs, and immediately catching the 7 Dragon Balls that were about to fly away. Lightly grasping them his hand, Xiaya took a look and discovered that the Dragon Balls he created, although have 7 stars inside, their color was not red. Ordinary Dragon Balls, whether they were Earth's Dragon Balls or Planet Namex Dragon Balls, or even the Super Dragon Balls, they were more or less all dark orange transparent crystals with gilded crimson stars inlaid at the middle. But these Dragon Balls of Xiaya were completely transparent crystal balls, they have no color, and the stars in the middle were actually bright white, just like the color of platinum. Chapter 171, Golden Flame Shenron. These 7 Dragon Balls are quite unique and look different from traditional Dragon Balls. Since Xiaya, the creator of these Dragon Balls, didn't have the traditional thinking of the Dragon Clan and adding the influence of his space-time ability, the Dragon Balls appeared extraordinarily refined and looked different. Xiaya looked at the Dragon Balls in his hand and faintly smiled. He wasn't the least bit bothered. As long as their function was similar, then, appearance was only secondary. He placed the 7 Dragon Balls on the ground, and they, after reacting to each other, immediately flickered and lit up. La Fulai, you should summon Shenron. The incantation is "Come forth, Shenron." Xiaya returned to the crowd and instructed La Fulai, who had a curious expression on her face. The incantation Xiaya had set up was in the language of his previous life. Since the creator of Dragon Balls needed to maintain the existence of Dragon Balls, they couldn't summon Shenron directly. It was here the question comes about the number of times Dragon Balls should be used. On one hand, the existence of Dragon Balls balances out the negative energy in the universe and creates miracles, on the other hand, they disturbs the natural order to a certain extent. Therefore, Dragon Balls had some limits on how much they should be used. Once Dragon Balls fulfill a wish, there would be a period of adjustment. At that time, they would turn into ordinary stones because their energy had been exhausted. They would only revert back to being Dragon Balls after absorbing enough energy. This adjustment period was related to the size of the planet where the Dragon Balls were scattered, and also the ability of the creator. The bigger the planet is, the more energy it can absorb, and the shorter the adjustment period will be. At the same time, if the ability of the Dragon Ball's creator is good enough, then the recovery time of Dragon Balls will be shorter. Regarding this point, the Super Dragon Balls created personally by Dragon God, Zalama, were without a doubt the best. They were scattered across 2 universes and absorbs the essences of both. Following these is Planet Namex Dragon Balls created by Planet Namex Great Elder. The Dragon Balls of Planet Namek were very powerful because of the enormous size of the planet, and the special ability of its Great Elder. Next are the Dragon Balls of Earth which were created by Dende and Kami. But now, after the Super Dragon Balls, the next best Dragon Balls should be the Crystal Dragon Balls created by Xiaya. Because the ability of the Crystal Dragon Balls creator, Xiaya, was sufficiently powerful. After the Crystal Dragon Balls fulfills the wish, they would be scattered across the range of a helix-shaped galaxy, therefore, the energy that could be absorbed would be sufficiently large. Returning to the topic, as Dragon Balls are objects that disturbs the natural order. No matter how divine, they are unable to break away from the laws of the universe. If they are used too often, and used for something too great, they would trigger a counterattack from the natural laws. Therefore, it is necessary to use the ability of their creator as a bridge to maintain the existence of the Dragon Ball itself. Therefore, Dragon Balls, generally, cannot be used by their creator to make wish for themselves. Furthermore, their use should be limited. Once their use exceeds the limit their creators can bear, a huge counterattack from the universe will be triggered, and this will result in a disaster. La Fulai nodded and complied. Due to her trust in Xiaya, she didn't think too much and walked enthusiastically to the front of the 7 crystal Dragon Balls, at the center of the square. She took a deep breath while looking at the Dragon Balls, which shone with bright lights, and shouted out the incantation that Xiaya instructed her to. Come forth, Shenron. La Fulai shouted out loud in Chinese language. It was language from Xiaya's past life. No one in the Dragon Ball world would know what the sentence means, neither could they use a translation device to analyze the language structure via words and expressions commonly used daily. Since she had never spoken Chinese before, La Fulai's tone was a bit weird, akin to foreigners who just learned to speak Chinese, and this caused Xiaya to smile with nostalgia. In Dragon Ball world, only he understood this native language. Rumble. As soon as La Fulai's voice echoed, the color of the sky immediately changed. Large groups of clouds floated over from the distant horizon, not dark clouds, but golden clouds. Soon, the golden clouds covered the morning sun and shrouded the entire planet Yetala's skies with magical clouds as if a god about to descend to the mortal world. Right after that, thunder began to erupt. The deafening bangs of thunder were akin to a war drum echoing loudly, gradually transmitting from far away. At the same time, the Dragon Balls, which shone with golden lights, got bigger and bigger, brighter and brighter in concert with the blue lightning in the sky. The summoning scene of these crystal Dragon Balls is completely different from that of the Earth's Dragon Balls. Xiaya smiled as he commented in his heart. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded throughout heaven and earth. Suddenly, the 7 crystal Dragon Balls emitted a large number of golden light rays which then soared towards the sky, before charging, directly, through the golden magic clouds and into the atmosphere. Roar! Another loud dragon roar rumbled outside the planet, and a golden shadow was projected down through the atmosphere. Xiaya frowned and quietly followed the golden light's trail with his eyes. He calculated the build of this Shenron in his mind. Looking from here, the Shenron he created seemed a little too big. Hoo! The shadow gradually became larger. It was as though a huge meteorite was on course to strike the planet, and the golden magical clouds that suffused the horizon were suddenly swept away. In the sky, a huge silhouette gradually became clear. Shenron had appeared. Xiaya whispered in his heart and raised his head. However, the enormous shadow he discovered, blotting out the sun as though it was going to collide with the planet, was only the massive head of the 5-clawed golden dragon, and Shenron's body was still outside the atmosphere. Its head is extremely huge, like an enormous mountain range, and spanned the distance between heaven and earth. If one looked at the golden scales from a high altitude, the scales would seem as enormous as a mountain. Gradually, the magic clouds were burned away by the fiery aura around Shenron's body, and Shenron's golden body in the distance became vaguely visible. The gigantic Shenron had a sacred, mighty, and noble aura similar to a Super Saiyan's seething aura. Its physique alone was enough to completely surround a planet. That's the Shenron carved by Sir Xiaya. Looking at the huge Shenron, which blotted out the sun as though it was a giant beast from primeval times, La Fulai swallowed her saliva, extremely shocked. Amazing! What divine beast is this? It's so big, and its entire body burns with golden flames. I have never seen such a noble creature before. I heard that this Shenron is something that Sir Xiaya summoned, to help us rescue those sisters who were stranded in the universe. Really? The elf girls discussed enthusiastically. They were all scared by the enormous Shenron. However, since Shenron's model was made using the branch of the Mother Goddess Divine Tree, these girls have a familiar feeling with the celestial Shenron. Is Sir Xiaya a god? How else could he summon such a holy divine beast? Shenron, burning with a golden aura, lowered its head and looked down at the people below. Its enormous mouth exhaled a stream of air, and its booming voice boomed throughout heaven and the earth. People who have collected all 7 Dragon Balls, speak thy wish no matter what it is. However, it can only be one. La Fulai jolted out of her reverie. With Xiaya's encouragement, she raised her head and made a wish to Shenron in words that Xiaya had instructed her with. Great Shenron, bring back my sisters who are stranded outside Planet Vegeta, suffering hardships. After making her wish, La Fulai proceeded to watch carefully, with an expectant look in her eyes. Golden flame Shenron's blood-red eyes sparkled. It remained silent for a while before saying, this wish is easy. Then, immediately, Shenron's eyes glowed red. As the dragon's eyes shone with a horrifying red light, La Fulai's wish was fulfilled under the effect of the dragon god's power. At this time, numerous beautiful figures appeared on Planet Vegeta. These girls wore crumbling clothing that barely covered their bodies. They had obviously suffered all kinds of grievances outside. Thy wish has been fulfilled. After the golden flame Shenron finished speaking, it noticed Xiaya and respectfully said, Mighty Creator, I will excuse myself. Xiaya gave a brief nod. Shoo! The golden magical clouds on the horizon disappeared, and the giant flame Shenron changed back into beams of light. These beams of light turned back into the 7 crystal Dragon Balls. They were just about to fly toward the universe, their range, precisely, the helix-shaped galaxy. This is Universe 6, I can't let you fly away. Upon seeing this, Xiaya jumped lightly and caught the Dragon Balls before they could fly away, and kept them in the dimensional space. After L returned to Universe 7, I will release them on planet Hongshan. The adjustment period of these crystal Dragon Balls is also 1 year, and they have to absorb energy from outside to recover. He then glanced at La Fulai and others who were hugging and crying below, smiled, turned, and used instant transmission to leave. From this moment, on Planet Vegeta, besides the Mother Goddess, the legends of Shenron would also be worshipped. Chapter 172, Going Back. Xiaya's figure briefly appeared on the sacred world of the Kai, which was on the other side of Universe 7's membrane, and without stopping, disappeared again using instant transmission. Xiaya had obtained a great harvest on this trip to Universe 6. Not only he could temper himself while searching for the Super Dragon Balls, but he also obtained the ability to create Dragon Balls and was able to create the powerful Crystal Dragon Balls with the Divine Tree's branch. Xiaya's battle power had rapidly increased from 700,000 to 3 million in just 1 year. Remarkably, he also solidified his foundation through both fighting and training. Moreover, he had surprisingly also obtained a small jar of the Fountain of Youth from the Universe 6's King Kai. Although it was only enough for 20 to 30 people, a mouthful would extend a life for hundreds of years. Xiling and others would surely be delighted. The thought made Xiaya smile. Then, in an instant, Xiaya appeared on planet Hongshan. He had been away for a year, but no major changes occurred on planet Hongshan. However, the number of powerful auras on planet Hongshan had increased, especially those from the Special Battle Squadron. Their strength has been steadily rising. The Special Battle Squadron was established 4 years ago, and some of its older members, Shak, and the others had already become adult and are the core strength of planet Hongshan. Hehe, planet Hongshan's scions are getting stronger and stronger. Now, they can be the pillar of the race. A wave of accomplishment filled Xiaya's heart upon discerning the powerful auras on planet. The number of super warriors currently on planet Hongshan was minuscule. This was because 100,000 was an enormous barrier, and only few scions could break through it. For most scions, the elite warriors' 10,000 battle power threshold was an insurmountable chasm. Although scions claim that they are a fighting race, their overall strength was considered meager compared to others in the universe. Many races in the universe considers battle power of 1,000 quite amazing. In comparison, scions who have around 10,000 battle power, easily stands out, and even the Saiyans of Planet Vegeta's period were more powerful than most of the civilizations in the universe. Therefore, they are a fighting race. However, this didn't mean that Saiyans could break through infinitely. After all, the power of their bloodline is an important factor restraining their growth. Even if Xiaya imparts the key training method to the Saiyans, it wouldn't make much difference at low level. However, the advantages of bloodline would become prominent again, once they attained a high level above 10,000 battle power. Normal Saiyans could attain elite warrior through training, but it was difficult for elite warriors to break through 100,000 battle power to become super warrior. And people in his past life has said, geniuses are 99% effort and 1% talent, and that 1% often plays a decisive role. There were currently only a few Saiyans, including Xiaya, at the super warrior level. Xiaya concealed his aura and took a walk in a city on planet Hongshan. The prosperous and bustling scenes made it seem like a civilization had been re-established. Xiaya nodded with satisfaction and proceeded towards Adri's home. I have not been home for a year. Xiling and the others may not have obediently stayed at his place. Upon arriving at Adri's doorstep, Xiaya hadn't knocked at the door yet and he sensed auras of 3 people inside. 2 auras belonged to Adri and Rebecca, and the last minuscule one belonged to Xiling's younger brother, Larret. Xiaya was surprised that Xiling and the others weren't here. Knock, knock, he knocked on the door. Soon, the door opened and a boy, who seemed strong but honest, ran out. The boy was only 2 years old, and upon seeing Xiaya, he asked with vigilance, "Who are you? Why have you come to our home?" "Haha, I am Xiaya, your older brother." Xiaya reached to pet boy's head, out of habit, but the boy ran back inside the house, without sparing Xiaya another glance. "Father, mother, someone just arrived and claims to be my older brother," the boy's childlike voice echoed out. Seeming unperturbed, Xiaya laughed, withdrew his hand which was left hanging in air and immediately entered the house. Although Saiyan children began to remember things very early and are quite mature, Xiaya has, after all, left for more than a year, and it is normal for Larret to have forgotten him. "Ah, little Ye, you are back. Are you done with everything?" Rebecca came out and upon seeing Xiaya, greeted him with surprise. It's finished." Xiaya replied with a smile and then greeted Adri who was reading a newspaper. He looked around, noting the absence of Xiling and Myers, asked, "Xiling and Myers, why haven't I seen them?" Rebecca, who was arranging a table, replied, "Since those girls learned instant transmission, they haven't been to sit still. Right now, who knows what planet they've ran to again." Xiaya nodded. With their current battle power, he had no worries regarding their safety as long as they didn't provoke any hidden expert. Not to mention, chances of them running into such an expert in Universe 7 was minuscule. "Little Ye, your aura seems different," Rebecca exclaimed as she noticed Xiaya's aura while picking up her son Larret. Yet, Little Ye became stronger again, Adri spoke with a seriousness and confidence. Not having seen him for an year, Adri's battle power had broke through to 100,000. He had become a super warrior, only inferior to Xiaya, Xiling, Myers, and Bardock. He was more certain than Rebecca, due to his discerning eyes and key perception. "Hehe, it's like this," Xiaya proceeded to recount his experiences in Universe 6 to them. When they learned that Xiaya's battle power had already reached 3 million, Adri and Rebecca were dumbfounded, and it took them a while to respond. 3 million battle power! 3 million battle power! This strength is unprecedented in our Saiyan race. Adri was thrilled and his eyes sparkled with a fervent light. Right from the time they followed Xiaya to planet Hongshan, Adri had been sure the Saiyan race would develop rapidly, and Xiaya's breakthroughs further increased his certainty. However, he hadn't expected that day to arrive this fast. Just 4 years after coming to planet Hongshan, a super warrior, with more than 3 million battle power, had appeared among the Saiyans. Xiaya would easily able to become a super Saiyan, and as long as he continued to grow, the Saiyan race wouldn't need to fear Frisia and others again. They could rush to East area and create a place for themselves, like before. Moreover, as long as the Saiyan's strength accumulates to a certain degree, that would be the day the Frost Demon race goes extinct. Adri thought in his heart. "Right, look." Xiaya's finger slashed through the air, and 7 spherical, gem-like emerald stones appeared which were sparkling with green light. These were the crystal dragon balls in their adjustment period. "These are the dragon balls I made. As I have just made a wish, they are still in the stone state. I want to hide them in a special place, so they can absorb the energy on the planet, Xiaya said. These are Dragon Balls. Adri and Rebecca took the Dragon Balls and studied them curiously for a while, and weighed them in their hands. Xiaya proceeded to warn them, you must pay attention, don't let them be taken away by others. Also, you absolutely can't let slip the information out that Saiyans possess Dragon Balls. Dragon Balls, these things, which could fulfill wishes, were very attractive. Once the news of its appearance leaked, it would bring about a disaster to the Saiyans. Saiyans can have such a divine object. This made Adri thrilled. Chapter 173, Frisia's Intentions, Part I. Indeed, only the few of us can know about them, we absolutely cannot divulge this information. Mentioning that Dragon Balls might bring trouble, Xiaya also fully agreed. Although the incantation for summoning Golden Flame Shenron was only known to him, those overly ambitious people in the universe would not stop spying. There has always only been 1000 days to be a thief, how could there be defending from thieves for 1000 days? The most effective way of keeping information about the Dragon Balls from spreading out would be to limit the number of people who are in the know. Note, it is difficult to achieve long-term prevention as there is always a time when you can be negligent. The information about the Crystal Dragon Balls was in his hands, and he did not intend on announcing the existence of the Crystal Dragon Balls if it wasn't necessary. Next, Xiaya again took out a deep blue exquisite small jar from his dimensional space. After seeing the jar, Adri exclaimed, Aya, this jar is so beautiful. Hehe, this small blue jar is more than just beautiful. Xiaya smiled and threw a heavy bomb. This is Fountain of Youth that I obtained from Universe 6 Sky. It is said that drinking just a mouthful can extend your life by several hundred years. You can extend your lifespan by several hundreds of years just by drinking a mouthful. Adri and Rebecca were shocked and dumbfounded. However, having been shocked previously because of Dragon Balls that can achieve any wish, seeing the Fountain of Youth, they were still able to keep their expressions under control. Xiaya picked up the small jar, looked at Adri and Rebecca, and said, unfortunately, the amount inside is too small. I roughly estimate that it is only enough for 18 people. Fountain of Youth is a magical spring water that exists in the yellow springs of the underworld. It is said to be the essence condensed from the depths of the yellow springs. It can only produce a drop every few decades. This small jar is the result of 1,000 years of accumulation. Moreover, Fountain of Youth is extremely special. If you use Dragon Balls to wish for it, such a wish will go against the laws of the universe and will certainly cause great trouble. There are 18 people's portions, it's not few. Adri said. Xiaya nodded and said, I intend to use 12 portions of the Fountain of Youth, and the rest will be temporarily reserved for emergency usage. Well, that makes sense. Adri nodded with approval. So how are you intending to use it? It's like this, Xiaya told him about his plans. In fact, the Fountain of Youth he had was not the 18 portions that he said, but 28 portions. Sometimes hiding something away is necessary. He planned on taking out 12 portions for the strongest experts of Planet Hongshan to use, so that he can ensure that he will have strong subordinates for a long time. Moreover, it is also a good way to win over the hearts of the people, and make these experts work as his subordinates. As for who to distribute these 12 portions to, it was actually very simple. Currently, the strongest Saiyans on Planet Hongshan were Xiaya, Adri, and others who belonged to the topmost level of Planet Hongshan. Therefore, without thinking about it, these 12 portions would be directly given to them. There were still about 16 portions remaining, and Xiaya intends to hold a martial arts assembly 10 years and 20 years later, and give 6 portions of the Fountain of Youth as a reward to the top 3 of the competition. As for the remaining 10 portions, he didn't intend to use them, this was his private collection. That's good, giving Fountain of Youth as a reward to the winner of the competition can inspire Saiyans to train harder. Adri listened to Xiaya's plan and nodded with approval. As he spoke, he glanced at Xiaya with an astonished look. Xiaya could plan like this, it was somewhat beyond his expectations. He vaguely felt that Xiaya had become more mature, and was no longer the child who in the past only did things that he liked. He knows how to give benefits. He took out the 12 portions of Fountain of Youth which would be able to easily win over the hearts of people and create a dozen loyal followers for him. But I'm afraid that this is not fair to the Saiyan youngsters of future. Rebecca doesn't think Adri's thinking is deep, and frowned after hearing him. Being younger meant that training time was shorter, and that there was basically no chance for them obtain a portion. Aunt Rebecca, where is there fairness in this world? You have to know that luck is also a kind of strength. There is no solution to it if they have no chance. Xiaya shrugged with a helpless look. There was only so much Fountain of Youth, how would it be possible for everyone to get some? What little Ya is saying is right, just do it like this. Adri said. Seeing both Xiaya and Adri agree, Rebecca had nothing else to say. Next, they called Bardock, Brooke, Palady, Alice, Lisa, and others to gather together. As the strongest Saiyans on planet Hongshan, Bardock and Brooke were similar to Adri. They already broke through to 100,000 battle power to become super warrior. Contrarily, Rebecca had always been in the lead, but because of giving birth to a child her battle power had lagged behind for a time. Still, she was same as Palady, Alice, Lisa, and others, at the final threshold. As for whether they can break through this final threshold, it would depend on their own ability. Little Ye, your harvest has not been small on this time's trip. After landing on the ground, Alice walked over with a hearty laugh, and placed her slender small hand on Xiaya's shoulder. Aunt Alice. Not bad, not bad. At this time, Xiaya's height has already exceeded her, so Alice's action looked somewhat funny. Congratulations Sir Xiaya for the huge increase in your strength. Bardock smiled as he walked forward. You know. Xiaya was somewhat surprised. Hehe, this Bardock guy, ever since he came back from planet Yardrat, he has completely turned into something like a prophet. There were many things that wouldn't be said, yet he would already know it. Palady said. Hearing this, Xiaya suddenly revealed an understanding look. It seems that after the curse on Bardock's body from planet Kanasa disappeared, the ability to predict future was also somewhat strengthened. No, this is because the power around Sir Xiaya's body has changed. Plus only with the effect of true spiritual secret art, I was able to speculate. It is simply impossible that I can predict future. Bardock gave a wry smile. Recently, he consecutively saw the scenes of future, but the scenes he saw at planet Kanasa have changed. Although the result more or less hadn't changed, the course of the events were truly earth-shaking, such that he did not know which one to believe. Everyone knows that. Xiaya pointed to the small jar on the table, and the 12 separate portions of the Fountain of Youth that were placed next to it, inside exquisite glass containers. There are a total of 12 portions here, and there are 8 people present, 1 for each person, and from the leftover 4, 1 for Xiling and 1 for Myers. The people present are Xiaya, Bardock, Adri, Rebecca, Brooke, Palady, Alice, and Lisa, altogether, 8 people. As for Xiling and Myers, who have run over to who knows where with instant transmission, both of their portions would be set aside, so there were still 2 portions left. No one had any objections regarding Xiling and Myers, after all, they were among the group of strongest people on planet Hongshan. The remaining 2 portions didn't have any suitable person at the moment. Finally, Xiaya made the decision to give 1 portion to Bardock's wife Jin, and put away the other one. So that left 17 portions for other purposes. Anyway, 6 of them would be used as a competition reward 10 and 20 years later. Bardock was very grateful to Xiaya for giving 1 portion to his wife. After all, if they were allocated based on strength, then with Jin's weak strength, perhaps she would never have an opportunity to obtain the Fountain of Youth. Well, that's it then. I will find time to send Xiling and Myers' portion to them. Xiaya smiled and unscrewed the glass container containing Fountain of Youth and drank it. It didn't have any special taste, but Xiaya could feel his body transforming little by little. Lifespan is an intangible thing that couldn't be sensed by the consciousness. Seeing this, Adri and others also laughed and drank the Fountain of Youth. After that, the several people began laughing and talking about other things. Milky Way Galaxy, Frisia headquarters. At this time, Frisia was floating leisurely in midair, looking at the scenery outside the porthole. Mr. Dodoria, it seems in these few years conflict has occurred between my eldest brother Cooler and my father because of something. Which side do you think I should be on? Dodoria was dumbfounded for a while before laughing. King Frisia, this subordinate can't make a decision regarding the 2 excellencies. Frisia clearly didn't care about Dodoria's answer. The corners of his mouth slightly rose, saying, Father and Cooler haven't had a conflict for many years. But, now a conflict has occurred because of something. I am very curious about what that thing is. It can simultaneously arouse Cooler and King Cold's interest, and they didn't hesitate to have a conflict. What exactly could that thing be? Frisia leisurely looked outside the porthole, his face somewhat gloomy, and his pair of demon-like blood-red eyes flickered with a cold light. Since Cooler's armored squadron was wiped out by an unknown force in the eastern region, although a completely new armored squadron was soon once again established, it was nevertheless a huge blow to Cooler's forces. At that time, Cooler did not go into hiding to quietly lick his wounds, but unexpectedly go into conflict with King Cold without any hesitation. The thing they were looking for is not small, Frisia really knows too much about Cooler's personality, that if there was not enough profit, he would not take such a big risk. Right, Mr. Dodoria, should we expand our forces? Frisia suddenly asked. Frisia's forces were located in the southern region of the north area. The eastern and northern region were dominated by King Cold and Cooler respectively. Frisia wanted to expand his territory to the center of Milky Way Galaxy in the western region, or further south. However, the center of Milky Way Galaxy was the location of the Galactic Patrol Organization. There were not many experts there, but somehow it was a restricted area for all the forces. King Cold once warned him that he was not allowed to expand to the center of the galaxy, so the idea of advancing further south could only be dropped. As for expanding to the western region of the north area, Frisia was frankly not willing. It's not that there was a strong expert in the western region of the north area that makes Frisia afraid, but that western region was very close to the west area, and currently the west area is the territory of King Cold's archenemy, King Davido. Right now, west area was very chaotic, and Frisia didn't want to get close and stick his foot into the west area's territory. Chapter 174, Frisia's Intentions, Part 2. Expanding our forces. Dodoria's eyes lit up and his pink flesh jiggled. But King Frisia, if we were to expand outward right now, our manpower may not be enough. Oh. Frisia stroked his chin and laughed maniacally, then, arrange some people to go probe the situation. I will delegate over 100 people from the First Corps to form a few squads. Take the East area, it's relatively peaceful. The First Corps was the most elite army he had. They were all experts, and even Dodoria wasn't a match for some of them. Frisia feels at ease in creating the advance squad, with 100 First Corps people, that'll investigate the East area's situation. Dodoria was shocked at King Frisia's plan. He immediately complied with a nod and said, "Yes, King Frisia, I will immediately make the arrangements." Speaking, he turned around and made to leave when Frisia's slightly hoarse voice called out. "Right, arrange another group, and have them carefully investigate the reason behind my brother's conflict with father. I want a clear answer." Frisia had a hunch all this contained a huge secret. Yes. Terror gripped Dodoria's body and mind. But it involves His Excellency Cooler and King Cold. Good or bad? He wasn't sure of the outcome of getting involved with them. Since Mr. Zarban's death, Dodoria quickly began to learn about the composition of surrounding forces. Now that he had a detailed understanding of the surrounding experts, Dodoria employed even more caution. But since Frisia had now commanded him, he must carry it out even if he wasn't willing. After Dodoria left, Frisia's expression turned cold and he muttered to himself while gazing at the monotonous and desolate scenery outside the window, what could they be fighting for? Planet Hongshan. The sky was clear and white clouds were floating about. Everyone left, one by one, after drinking the Fountain of Youth, including Bardock, who was careful when bringing out that small portion of Fountain of Youth with him. Only Adri, Rebecca and Xiaya were left behind in the room. Little Ye, it was right to leave a portion of Fountain of Youth for Jin. Adri said seriously after the others were gone. Bardock is not simple, I have a hunch, his future achievements will, absolutely, not be meager. As the king of the Saiyans on planet Hongshan, you must win him over. Xiaya glanced at Adri with astonishment. He didn't expect Adri to be this perceptive, it did pave a way for him. He smiled faintly and yet was thinking in his heart, Bardock is undoubtedly powerful, yet it hadn't reached the point where Xiaya would attempt to specially win him over. Xiaya had only given Jin a portion of the Fountain of Youth because what he regarded as highly important is her son Kakarot. Hehe, I want to send Xiling and Myers their portion, but I don't know where they ran off to. Xiaya smiled and pointed at the 2 portions of spring water on the table. Those little brats, especially Xiling, she is no longer a child, but her personality is still childish. Little Ye, only you can properly keep them under control. Rebecca joked, but her eyes kept staring at Xiaya. She couldn't control both of them, so she is handing them over to Xiaya. Xiaya laughed awkwardly and complied, will do, will do. What is Aunt Rebecca suggesting? Then, Aunt Rebecca, I will go look for them, Xiaya hurriedly spoke and used instant transmission to sense their aura. However, he couldn't sense their aura even after searching a large area. The two brats wouldn't have left the east area, right? He kept trying and expanded the scope of the instant transmission. After adding space-time ability, he was finally able to discern their auras. Xiaya's face revealed surprise as he linked their coordinates to the star chart of Universe 7 that appeared in his mind. They actually ran over to Earth. Xiling and Myers' auras had revealed their location, Earth in North area. Myers probably egged Xiling to go. That brat has been drooling over the food on Earth for a long time. Xiaya mused and said a few words to Adri and Rebecca, before vanishing with a swoosh. Look, you scared little Ya away. Adri's black face revealed a smile as he spoke. Rebecca smiled as well. If I hadn't urged him, how would little Ya remember to go look for Xiling so early? See, wasn't that very good? Ha ha ha. Earth. A peninsula city, near the seaside, where Xiaya had lived before. Xiling and Myers were gorging on food in a family restaurant. Clang clang, the collisions of tableware created sounds that reverberate all around. They ate fast. A plate of food was served and, immediately, a few after images flashed past, and everything on the dining table was swept clean. The appearance of two people eating so fiercely shocked the people closely, leaving them with dumbfounded looks. No one had imagined that these two beautiful girls who looked so pretty and adorable would devour food, in such a frightening manner. Sure enough, one can't be judged by looks alone. Hey, Xiling, are there other places to go and eat tasty food, once we're done here? Myers asked incoherently with a mouth full of food. West City, I heard it is the most prosperous city on Earth. I also haven't been there before, but it should be quite good. At this moment, Xiling and Myers were getting along with each other, as eating was the only thought they had in their mind now. MHM, then, let's wait until we finish eating here. If I had known that food on Earth is so delicious, I would have come over much earlier. How would you have been able to locate Earth if I didn't show you the way? Xiling glanced at her with cold and arrogance written on her face, and her exquisite eyes revealing a detestably smug expression. Hey, can't you see the disturbance you are causing with your eating? Are there girls like you too, who don't pay attention to their image? Suddenly, a clear voice echoed next to them. Who are you talking about? You really have guts. Xiaya, what are you doing here? Myers couldn't finish her sentence before she hollered in surprise when she noticed that it was Xiaya, who had arrived. What was that you said just now? Keep on talking. Xiaya stared at her. Speechless, Myers' small face flushed red with embarrassment. Xiaya, you're finally here. Xiling stood up and walked towards Xiaya, and after staring at him for a moment, she proceeded to hug Xiaya, smearing oil all over him in the process. Xiaya didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although he felt great having a beauty in his arms. Xiling, you have to pay attention to your appearance. She had completely dirted his clothes. It's your punishment. Who told you to come back only now? Xiling gave him a haughty look and then again sat down to eat. Do you want to eat too? Okay. Xiaya grinned and sat down, before reaching out his hand to pick food from a plate. Hee. The Myers brat, who was sitting at the side and gazing at Xiling and Xiaya, suddenly giggled. Thump. And she was, naturally, met with a knock on her head. What are you doing? Myers screamed while rubbing the spot on her head where she was hit. Nothing, my hands just felt itchy. Xiling answered indifferently while looking at Myers. You. Myers angrily opened her mouth but turned listless instead, like a grass that had lost its nourishment. At the moment, she was no match for Xiling. After they returned from planet Namek, with potential unlocked, Xiling's strength has vastly surpassed hers. Although she had trained hard to attain 180,000 battle power, it still couldn't be compared to Xiling's 410,000 battle power. You two obviously have such a good relationship, so why are you then always quarreling? Xiaya smiled and shook his head. Is this the friendship between girls? It didn't seem to be the case. Chapter 175, Again Seeing Launch. Xiaya accompanied Xiling and Myers in finishing the meal and naturally got up to settle the bill, as he had joined them in the middle. Once he paid the bill, he led them out of the restaurant. Hey, Xiaya, you had been gone for such a long time to search for the Super Dragon Balls. Did you already find all of them? Myers asked with shining eyes. Tell me. Xiaya answered her question with another question. Earth is really far from planet Hongshan, so why did you run all the way here to play? Hehe, I heard you say the food on Earth was delicious, wouldn't it have been a pity not to come here and eat? Myers patted her bulging stomach and laughed mischievously. Xiaya gave a disdainful look at her reply. The brat had somehow mixed what is important and what is not. Although Science loves delicious food, they had no need to go somewhere far away, i.e. Earth, for delicious food. They were better off spending the time to train more, and amass a little more strength. Xiaya switched his gaze to Xiling. Myers wanted to come, and since I also haven't been to Earth for many years, I thought I'd come by. Xiling smiled, her bright eyes looking around charmingly. A light breeze blew and caused a lock of her beautiful silky hair to flutter. For a moment, Xiaya stared blankly. He suddenly realized that Xiling was now a 16-year-old girl. What is it? Xiling caught Xiaya staring at her in daze and asked. Nothing. Xiaya shook his head and changed the subject. This time I brought back something good from the outside and have especially come over to give it to you. Speaking, Xiaya took out the 2 containers containing the Fountain of Youth and handed them over to Xiling and Myers. Here are 2 portions of Fountain of Youth, drinking it will extend your lifespan. It is so magical. Taking it, Myers scrutinized the glass container filled with Fountain of Youth in her hand. Under the sunlight, the glass container exuded azure beams of light, it was very beautiful. She unscrewed the lid, drank it all in one gulp and smacked her lips. It tastes the same as ordinary spring water. There doesn't seem to be anything special about it. She concluded with a disgusted expression on her face. Does she think it is delicious food? Do you think this is food and want it to have delicious taste? Do you know that what you drank just now, is something Frisia wants to get even in his dreams? Xiaya angrily knocked her on the head. In the future, what did Frisia attack planet Namek for? Wasn't it to achieve immortality using Dragon Balls? If Frisia found out that Myers drank a mouthful of the Fountain of Youth and complained about its taste, he may just run over personally and skin her alive. Myers stuck her tongue out and immediately dodged to the side. This brat, Xiaya looked at little girl in front of him, who seemed to be around 8 to 9 years old, and couldn't help smiling and shake his head. The peach blossoms along the bluestone path were in full bloom. In the distance, the clear by sea connected to the sky, resulting in a beautiful sparkling scenery. The sea breeze blew gently, carrying moisture within. Xiaya, how about we buy a house here? Xiling suddenly suggested. Xiaya stopped and looked at her curiously. Sure, the view here is very good, and it is quite suitable for living. When you were a child, you also suggested building a house here. When she was a child, Xiling had also suggested building a house here. However, they had to return to Planet Vegeta, so they couldn't achieve it. Unexpectedly, she still remembered, and Xiaya, of course, agreed to her suggestion. Moreover, it was not far from Master Roshi's residence, the Kame house. So, it was likely that they'd come across something interesting in future. Good, good, we'd then be able to eat Earth's food more often in future. Myers exclaimed. As she thought of how she could eat Earth's food whenever she wants in future, she seemed to become hungry once again. Is there anyone else like her in the world? Xiaya laughed, and took out 2 cards from his pocket, handing them over. These 2 are credit cards from Capsule Corporation. If you need to buy or eat anything, you can go ahead and use it. His wealth wasn't just average, after all. The Hoi Poi capsule industry has already opened its doors in the East area trading planets, and its daily earnings was an astronomical figure. Of course, Bulma's family has also benefited from it quite considerably. Capsule Corporation's reputation was rapidly becoming a household name in the universe. But, no one knew that Capsule Corporation had its headquarters on this small planet, Earth. In the quiet afternoon, the sun was not scorching, and cool winds blew past the ears. Amidst the clouds, Xiaya's figure flashed like a lightning bolt. He swiftly passed by the green mountains and rivers below him. In the blink of an eye, Xiaya had arrived at the sacred land of Korin in the northern hemisphere. After purchasing a mansion in the peninsula city near the coast, Xiaya came to the faraway sacred land of Korin by himself without a care for Xiling and Myers, who had become addicted to shopping. When the Korin Tower, which was connected with heaven and earth, appeared on the horizon, Xiaya accelerated and soared high up into the sky. Leaving behind a long blazing tail, he suddenly did a 90-degree turn and turned into a black spot, disappearing from the horizon. On the Korin Tower. Standing in front of a water jar, Korin looked down at the scenes of the human world. Suddenly, a gust of strong wind blew, and a silhouette appeared in front of it. "Ah, Xiaya, when did you come?" Korin looked at the new arrival and raised its paw to greet him. It was already immune to Xiaya's method of arriving and departing like a ghost. "Just arrived on Earth not too long ago, I then immediately came up to take a look." Xiaya smiled faintly and looked around but didn't see Launch. He felt surprised and asked, "Where's Launch? How come I don't see her?" Korin stroked its whiskers and walked over with its cane. It took a fish out of a water jar and ate it. Launch took the flying nimbus and went shopping in the mortal world. She should be returning soon. Launch, flying nimbus. Two unrelated words popped into his mind. Xiaya was slightly surprised, but then he couldn't help but smile. It was no surprise that a pure-hearted girl like Launch could sit on the flying nimbus. In the original work, Launch was brought back by Son Goku and Krillin, precisely riding a flying nimbus. "Oh, by the way, what about blonde state Launch? Did she try to run away?" Xiaya asked. "How could she not have? She always want to run away after some time has passed." Korin revealed a faint smile. "But every time blonde Launch secretly escapes, it wouldn't take long before the blue-haired Launch would come back on the flying nimbus. She has already escaped more than a few times." "Ha ha ha." Xiaya laughed once he heard this. At this time, the blonde Launch must be blaming her other self. How could the blue-haired Launch be so obedient? With the flying nimbus, the blonde Launch would still came back, no matter how far she runs away. Xiaya and Korin continued chatting. After some time, they saw the blue-haired Launch come back on the flying nimbus, carrying a container of fresh ingredients. "Ah, Xiaya, when did you come back?" Upon seeing Xiaya, Launch was happy and jumped down from the flying nimbus. "I just arrived." Oh, not bad. You are much more lively than before." Xiaya commented upon noticing her cheery disposition and reached out his hand to stroke her blue hair. The 10-year-old Launch seemed delicate and lovely, and she was now almost as tall as Xiaya's shoulder. Launch's strength is not bad, battle power is almost 40. Xiaya praised. Normal adult Earthling possess battle power in a single digit and only a small number of martial artists could break through to double digits, i.e. King Chappa, who was regarded as the champion of the World Martial Arts Tournament, had a battle power between 80 to 90. However, Launch had already achieved so much at a young age, it was indeed amazing.